Kia ora koutou katoa and good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to a briefing on for the hearings panel on the Wheels to Wings major cycleway. Our members of the hearings panel are here, except at this stage, Councillor Kewen hasn't arrived. Yeah, and so we'll follow up and see if we can get him here. But the briefing is being live streamed to enable public access and to ensure that a recording is available on our website. Can I just remind everyone that panel members and the public that this is not a decision-making meeting, but a briefing of the hearings panel to be informed and updated on the outcomes of the consultation that has been ongoing with respect to the Wheels to Wings cycleway. Staff will run through a presentation and talk to each section of the route, and there'll be an opportunity at the end of each section for panel members to ask questions. And I think just for the sake of completeness, can I acknowledge and welcome Community Board member Jason Middlemas, who is joining us by Zoom. Thank you very much for doing that. I know that a 3-hour stint is a big ask by Zoom, so it's much appreciated. But I can see you while you've got your camera on, so if you want to ask a question, just wave your hand furiously, and if all else fails, send Samantha a copy, a message to say that you would like to ask a question, if that's okay. And thank you. So Councillor Kewen's here now. We've got Community Board Chair Emma Norrish and Councillor Mike Davidson. And with Jason Middlemas, that makes up the panellists, and I'm chairing this hearings panel. So no apologies have been received. There are no declarations of interest recorded, and I will now hand over to the presenters. I will acknowledge Lynette Ellis, who is also joining us by Zoom, the Head of Transport. So I will hand over.
Kia ora koutou. My apologies for not being there today. I decided to keep the germs to myself, so Zoom is a great thing for doing that. Look, I'm going to keep it really quick with a briefing, with a brief intro today, just to remind us where we've been and got to, so that we can just set the scene for the hearings panel today. So, Papanui ki Waiwhetu, or Wheels to Wings cycleway. I acknowledge that it's been quite a while since we did go out and talk to the community and gather all the feedback. There was a lot of feedback, and the team have been doing a huge amount of work since then. So they've been coding the submissions, continuing to work through ideas with stakeholders and submitters. They've also contacted a lot of submitters along the way, and they've been doing a lot of consultation analysis. So that's all going to come out in the briefing today. And we'll also talk through all of the design alternatives that we've looked at. So if you can flick the slide for me, please, Anne or Ollie, one of you, with the power. Great, thank you. So just to remind everyone, our objectives here are to design a safe cycleway for people to use as an alternative to using their cars. The design demographic, we've talked about it before, is the interested but concerns, translates to that 88 to 80. For those of you that have been with council for a while, you might remember a visit we had from Jan Gell from Denmark, where he talked about designing a livable city for those that are from 8 to 80, so that everyone can take part in a city. Cycleways are also a way that we've proven that we can reduce our emissions, we can improve the health of our communities, it improves the livability of our communities. Now, at the moment, we've got well over 40 kilometres completed of our cycleways. We've got about 100 kilometres planned, and we've got 4 routes currently in construction. That is the South Express heading out towards Templeton, the Norwest Arc. Primarily that started at Princess Margaret Hospital and is heading across towards the university, and then around towards to connect up to this cycleway. We've got the Rapanui to Shagrock cycleway down through Charlesworth Reserve, currently under construction. And we've got the Northern Line that we've got a little bit under construction up through Barnes Reserve. Do a switch for me, please. Here we go. So these are our objectives. We're looking to deliver against the objectives of the Christchurch Strategic Transport Plan, which is really about us trying to provide a realistic mode choice for people. But we want to be specific to the needs of the people of Christchurch. We want to be safe and realistic and achievable. And like I said just before, it's really about attracting those people that would like to cycle, but whatever that but is. And 9 times out of 10, that is about it doesn't feel safe enough. So it's about providing a facility that feels safer to those people that want to try 1 or 2 of their trips each week by cycle. And really try and make a difference in mode shift. That's what we're trying to achieve here, and giving people options. So my last slide before I hand over to the team is the next one. So that's the network that we've got here in Christchurch. And this is actually a little bit unique here in New Zealand, in that we are the only city that is putting together a cohesive and interconnected network. Now you can see from this, the dark pieces are built. The medium strength pieces are underway. And the lighter ones are the ones that are planned for the future. Now those 2 that are predominantly waiting to be built are the 2 main river routes. And you can see circled in green, Papanui ki Waifetu, or wheels to wings out there, heading from the Northern Line out towards the airport. But it also connects with that orbital route round towards Princess Margaret Hospital. So one of the major benefits that we have in Christchurch, and the major benefits from building this program of work, is that, and we've talked about it before, is that for every $1 we spend, we get $8 of benefit. But it's from building the network, and that's where we've had such good support through the government funding in the past. It is a big network, and we're just talking about a small part of it today. It's still a reasonably long route. So the team are going to split it into 3 sections, and they'll take questions at the end of each section. Ollie will go through that, but we're going to divide it into 4 sections. There's that. They'll work through that. It is building these cycleways and getting these into existing networks is complex and difficult. It requires compromise, but often, and we've found this in the past, often we end up with benefit, not just for cycleways. So we end up with improved walking facilities. We often end up having to do things for the electrical network. Sometimes there's undergrounding. So there's all sorts of other benefits that we can achieve along the way. So, but they'll try and talk through some of that as we go as well through this. So that's largely my introduction, and I don't think there's anything new in that. So I'll just pass over to Ollie to keep going. They're the ones that have got all the detail.
Great. Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, so the objective of today is to brief the hearings panel on the Wheels to Wings cycleway, and we're going to divide the project up into 3 main sections because it's a relatively long route at 4.6k. So we're going to look at the west end from Johns Road to Nummuck Boulevard, and then the east end from Greers Road to the Northern Line, and then finally the central section, which is Nummuck Boulevard through to Greers Road. I'll present the project background and design considerations for a cycleway, and specifically for the Wheels to Wings route, and then Anne will go and provide an overview of the community and stakeholder feedback. So back in 2017, we undertook a route selection where we looked at a wider network and identified where a cycleway could go, linking the Johns Road underpass through to the Harewood Road at the railway line. And that was presented and discussed with the community boards through those areas, the Papanui Innes and Fendleton Waimari Harewood community boards. In 2018, the Harewood Road was endorsed as the preferred route for a major cycleway to be on, and that was endorsed by the Infrastructure, Transport and Environment Committee. In 2019, the Gardners-Breens Harewood intersection upgrade was approved by council, and that is for traffic signals to be installed at that intersection. And as part of that, funding was brought forward, and for that to be included with the construction of the wheels to wings. In 2020, we started the scheme design reporting. So that involved joint community board briefings in November. The Urban Design and Transport Committee confirmed the route along Matson's Ave as the preferred route for Norwest Stark. During the same time, the Greer's Harewood intersection was identified for minor safety improvements, and the Northern Line Harewood Road crossing was confirmed for traffic signals, with construction of those expected in 2023. This year, in the first quarter, in January to March, has been the public consultation, the start of the consultation that's still ongoing now, and separate briefings of the community boards. This map here shows what we considered in the route selection process. And this is the route that was endorsed by the ITE in 2018. We've got a start point at the western end of the Johns Road Roundabout, which has a underpass that links to the airport zone. And at the eastern end, we have the Northern Line Railway, which connects with the existing Northern Line route and the, at that time, proposed Norwest Stark route on Matson's Ave, and provides a connection into the Northlands Mall area, Mitre 10 area. You can see the width of the corridor, which is shown in the light blue, is quite extensive. It extends to Sawyers Arms Road in the north, through to Wairaki Road in the south. And all the different coloured lines on there are the different routes that were assessed against certain criteria. So criteria for cycleway users, criteria on impacts to the community, and criteria on costs and program. The outcome of this was the identification of Harewood Road as the preferred route, which was endorsed by the ITE in 2018. And as part of that evaluation of the route, we identified what's a straw man of a facility type. So the facility type wasn't locked in, it was just an understanding of what kind of facility would be suitable for the volume of the road and the areas we're trying to connect into. So back in 2017, the facility types that we thought would be appropriate at that time are shown there, from a shared path on the south side down by Harewood School, two-way past Nunwick Park, one-ways through the central section, and then either one-ways or a two-way on the north side from Greer's Road through to the Northern Line Railway. So what do we consider when evaluating a major cycle route and the kind of facility that might be included on a road. For the Wheels to Wings project, there are a number of improvements in the area. That have a direct impact on Harewood Road and for the wider area. So the first one highlighted here is the Northcote Sawyers Arms traffic signals and the Northcote Road improvements, which is a capacity improvement to get more traffic through. And what this project does, what this project does is it promotes the east-west link along Sawyers Arms Road from Kiwi 2 Drive. So that is, if you look at the laser pointer, it's the route coming from Kiwi 2 Drive along Northcote Road. Improvements at this Northcote Sawyers intersection improves capacity and attracts more traffic to Sawyers Arms Road. So that's quite a difficult turn to undertake at the moment, the right turn from Northcote Road to Sawyers Arms Road. So that improvement attracts a lot of traffic away from Harewood Road and onto Sawyers Arms Road. Other improvements include the Greer's Road intersection, where there's currently a crash problem, and there's a safety project that's going to provide right turn arrows off Harewood Road and Greer's Road. There's the Breens Harewood intersection that has been approved by council for construction, and that's new traffic signals there. The feedback from the public was that it's quite difficult to exit Breens or Gardners Road. The Sawyers Arms Highstead Roundabout, capacity improvements proposed in 2028. And then the Greer's Langdon's intersection. That's had increasing pressure on that intersection. It's currently unfunded, but it is being investigated by staff. Some of the more general considerations that we evaluate, there's a whole list of them here, and this isn't everything that's considered, but we look at mobility and visually impaired users. How could they interact with the facility type? What is the loss of on-street parking for residents and for businesses? Local businesses, what kind of access requirements do they have on and off-street parking? Do they have buildings that are right up to the property boundaries? Emergency services, is it a key corridor for emergency services? Network impacts, that the previous slide showed what the overall improvements in the area would be, but what happens when we put additional signals along a route? And the cost in the program. There's a relatively constrained budget that we work to, and how does that tie in with the overall program of works? Specific considerations for the Wheels to Wing and the Harewood Road route is the 4-lane section. What are the effects of removing a traffic lane? Does this support other improvements in the area, and is it supported by other improvements such as the Northcote Road signalisation? The link to the Northern Line MCR, which is existing, and the proposed Norwest Arc on Matsons Ave. How do these interact with each other? How will they connect? The Bishopdale Roundabout. It's a large intersection, a lot of mature trees in the middle of it. What's going to be most efficient for traffic, but also the pedestrians that are in the area and riders coming through? Quite unique to Harewood Road is the number of rest homes and retirement villages, particularly up the eastern end with Golden Age and Wesley Care. We have the parks, Nunwick Park, Bishopdale Park, and sporting events that occur there. There's a really high on-street parking demand associated with those, along with the everyday activity of parents coming along with children. Vehicle speeds along Harewood Road. Now the surveys are showing that the vehicle speeds on Harewood Road are about 5k an hour higher than for a road of this function. So if we compare that to the likes of Memorial Ave, the average speed along there is 50k. Harewood Road's up at 55. So there's a speed issue along there, and we've had that feedback from the public. And then the range of business types. So we've got the rest homes, you've got Mega 10, Mitre 10 Mega, Charity Hospital, Copenhagen. They're all various different size businesses with different delivery requirements and different needs. So what analysis have we done to help answer some of those queries and make an informed decision? We've undertaken parking surveys and looked at what's the available parking on street and how much of it is being used at the moment, so what's the demand? And in some key areas, where are people parking to go to a local business? What's the volume of traffic that's using the road, and what's the number of riders that are currently using the road, and particularly around the roundabout? And then traffic modelling. Because it's such a large area and there are other improvements proposed, traffic modelling's been done on a city-wide scale, which has then been refined down to the Harewood Road route and then down to individual intersections. And this is really to evaluate what the impacts would be of the Northcote Greer's improvements, what are the impacts of the Greer's Road safety improvements, and what happens if a traffic lane was removed. And then we looked at drainage assessments. Where's the flooding in the area? Crime prevention through environmental design. So what's the safety of people that are using the route currently? And Harewood Road has quite a good SEPDED outcome. It has houses, residential houses that are facing the street, and it has a reasonable volume of traffic, so there's a lot of passive observation. And then arborist assessments. What's the condition of the trees? What effect would construction have on the trees? So the concepts identified during the scheme stage in 2020 are presented up there. And at the west end, we're looking at 3 different facility type concepts. Through the central section, there were 6, and at the eastern end, there were 2 main concepts. And these concepts have been evaluated against the design criteria, such as safety for the riders, and that being key for attracting new riders, the interested but concerned group. How direct is the route, and how direct is the facility on there, and how comfortable is it to use? And then we look at the community impact. So will parking be removed outside residential properties? Will access to businesses be restricted? And then the costs and the risk associated with delivering that facility. So review of those options on the previous slide resulted in the recommendation of a preferred concept to go out to consultation. And that is the design that was consulted on, was started in January of this year. It's really a straw man for consultation, and it's based on our technical assessment. And we go out to the public and say, we've done a technical assessment, we've visited the site a number of times, different times of day, and we have an understanding of the route. But we don't live there. We don't see what happens 24/7. We don't see what happens during special events. So we come out to you. We come out to the public and ask them, tell us how this might impact you. Here's our straw man. Here's our best technical assessment. Tell us how that impacts you. And we can then evaluate that and make some changes where needed. So the route that was consulted on, if I quickly run through that, from the west end, you have the underpass of Johns Road. A shared path is provided on the south side of Whitchurch Street, which continues to Waimak Road on the left-hand side, the western side, and then crosses over to the eastern side of Waimak Road, down to Harewood Road. It crosses Harewood Road via new pedestrian and cycle signals that are on a raised platform. So this slows down the traffic and it creates a safe zone for the kids to cross from Harewood School. The shared path then continues along the south side of Harewood Road up to Waldridge Road, where new traffic signals at Harewood Road, the riders can cross and continue via the shared path in front of Nunwick Park up to Kilmuir Lane. At Kilmuir Lane, the facility changes to a two-way separated facility on the south side of Harewood Road, and that continues up to Nunwick Boulevard, where there are mid-block pedestrian and cycle signals, and the facility swaps to a one-way facility on either side of Harewood Road. That one-way facility continues along either side of Harewood Road through the Gardeners intersection with new traffic signals up to Bishopdale Roundabout. At Bishopdale Roundabout, the one-way comes into the middle of the roundabout via pedestrian and cyclist signals, through the roundabout and out the other side onto a two-way facility on the northern side of Harewood Road. The two-way on the north side continues through the Greerers intersection, which has the safety improvements, through the traffic signals there, continues along the north side of Harewood Road up to the Chapel Street, Matson Street area, where mid-block signals for pedestrians and cycles changes the facility to one-ways either side of Harewood Road, which continue up to the Northern Line. So I'll now hand you over to Anne, who's the consultation lead, and she'll provide a briefing of the feedback from the community and stakeholders.
Thanks, Ollie. So as Ollie mentioned earlier, consultation for this project was held in January of this year and through to the 15th of March, and that included 4 drop-in sessions that were really well attended by members of the community. There was an extension due to a COVID level drop, so which meant we extended the consultation further and added in some drop-ins, an extra drop-in session. We met with some businesses and groups before consultation, but it was a project that started pretty quickly, so we didn't manage to get through as many pre-engagement meetings as we would have liked. However, we continued to meet with some of the key groups and businesses during the early stages of the consultation, and a number of these meetings have continued since the close of consultation, where we've had ongoing discussions and one-on-one meetings with different groups and businesses in the area. We delivered approximately 2,000 documents were delivered on the route and just off to the sides of Harewood Road in small adjacent side streets, and with approximately 650 properties directly on Harewood Road who will be directly affected by the Cycleway. In that area, there was only 189 absentee owners, so it shows there's a really high percentage of properties that are owner occupied, which is quite unusual in our consultations. We tend to have a lot higher in terms of absentee owners. And we also sent an email out to our stakeholder list, which had approximately 200 people on that. We received just over 1,300 submissions, and that was from businesses, organisations and residents, and just over 300 of those were from properties within the delivery area. So it showed a real high interest citywide on this project. And as Ollie mentioned earlier, Herwood Road was it's really interesting in the fact that it is a mixture of small businesses. We have dairies, funeral homes, dentists and doctors. Some of those businesses do have off-street parking. The dairies are reliant on quick on-street parking where people can just duck in and grab an ice cream or something. Then you've got your larger businesses with your Mega Mitre 10 at the eastern end, as well as Bishopdale Mall right in the middle. And then, like Ollie also referred to earlier, we have 3 retirement villages rest homes, which again is quite unusual on one road. And sports parks, 2 major sports parks, charity hospital. And we've also got with Copenhagen Bakery, which is a really popular destination that people visit from citywide, that has relocated from the central city out to Herwood Road. And we've also got, the consultation showed there was a lot of people that live in the area that have lived there for a really long time within the delivery area and have seen a lot of changes over the years. So they were able to provide us with some really good feedback. Oh, right hand side, I'm left-handed. Oh. So the map just to the bottom left of your screen, the red line is Herwood Road and the blue area is the area that we delivered the flyers to. So we targeted the houses directly on the route and we just went back a bit just off to the side streets, and especially in that top left-hand corner up by Nunwick Park, that those particular streets, their only entry and exit is straight onto Herwood Road, so that's why that area is probably a bit larger than some of the areas on the map. And when we did the consultation, we didn't specifically ask people whether they supported the Cycleway or not. We just asked for people to provide us some feedback. But however, when we did our consultation analysis, we, based on the feedback that we received, we thought it was important to try to get an understanding of where people sat. So while we didn't ask the question about support, based on the analysis as staff, we came up with those people that really clearly supported, that when you read their submission, really clearly supported the Cycleway. We would code that. A clear opposition, if their submission really clearly opposed the Cycleway, we coded that. And the ones where we have no clear indication for or against, they were people who provided feedback, however didn't really give any clear indication around the actual Cycleway itself. So that shows you sort of a bit of a breakdown on people's position on the Cycleway, and we've then separated them into sort of the 4 major suburbs, I guess, in that part of the city, 4, as well as those people from outside of the area. So submitters who have a PO box number may not have provided us with an address, or whose address was outside of those 4 suburbs. They are the people that are sitting in the other column. So the breakdown of numbers in terms of the spread is similar to other cycleways across the city, possibly a bit more opposition to the cycleway in this area, but overall it generally is in alignment with other cycleway projects that we've consulted on in the past. In the early stages of consultation, it wasn't myself, it was my colleague prior to me, and one of the team went and met with the students at Hallsville School, and so they got to meet with all of the students apart from one, I think it was year 6, who were away on a school camp, but other than that, every other student was involved. So just a quick snapshot of what a lot of really good feedback came from the children, but currently how the students, you can see on the left, currently a really high percentage of students currently get to school by car. However, when the team asked the children how they'd like to get to school, it was really clear that looking at scooters, biking. High percentage would like to come on the bus. And that's based purely on students' feedback, and it showed quite a difference that a lot of these children would like to be able to travel to school under a different mode of transport rather than coming by the car. So, but being really mindful, this is from children. It may not be able to do that, but it just gives a really clear picture that when we have a school on the road, the children, if able to, will use it. Oh, do you want to flip back there? Just remember one thing. Sorry, while we're talking on the school one, I should mention that we also received a submission from the Ministry of Education, and they were looking at from the bigger picture, and they identified there are 6 schools in the area who could benefit from the new Cycleway, and they are Harewood School, Cotswold, Breens, Bishopdale, Isleworth and Papanui High. They also said that the new signals on the route would actually increase safety for their students and their teachers getting to and from school. They did raise a slight concern that the changes could result in vehicles using other routes which may cause safety concerns for other schools, but they're generally supportive of infrastructure anywhere near schools that facilitate active transport as well as improve safety for their students. This is just a quick snapshot of and I'll go into a wee bit more detail in the corresponding slides. But these themes are where we received over 100 submissions on the particular theme. So these are sort of the top, I think it's 12 or 13, where we got over 100 submissions mentioning these topics. So as you can see, parking loss, the lane reduction, cost of the project and congestion are sort of the main ones which generated the most feedback. You'll also see in there that the signals proposed for Harewood Gardeners Breens intersection is the community is still really, really supportive of that particular component of the project. And but that just gives you a quick overall picture of where these really key themes came through from our feedback. So getting into the themes. So the key benefits that were noted by our submitters, it was recognised that with the Cycleway comes other additions. For example, signalised crossings, narrowing down of the side streets for people to cross, and generally makes it a lot safer for pedestrians in the area. So it's a safety benefit, of course, for the people biking and walking in the area. And with the number of schools, we received submissions both from parents and students who say currently if they feel very unsafe biking on Harewood Road, but if we had the Cycleway, they're quite excited about the fact that they would be able to bike to school. There was a feedback around a reduction in, it was reducing carbon emissions, and that the cycleways are consistent with the Climate Change Commissioner's recommendations and also the Council's declaration of a climate emergency. Physical and mental wellbeing, and that was came through very strong. CDHB when we went to meet with the age concern around providing facilities that their age range of the 8 to 80 can use, and that we see a lot of older people out on their bikes now using a lot of the cycleways around the city. And it's a way to get people out and moving and feeling safe as well. As I said earlier, we've got still very widespread support for the signalising at Harewood Gardeners Breens intersection, and also a lot of support for the signalised crossings that we're going to be putting in both for pedestrians and cyclists. And when we spoke to the team at Wesley Care, a lot of their residents currently cross Harewood Road to go visit the cafe over at Mitre 10, so they saw the signals going in at Matson's Ave as a real positive and a lot safer for their residents to go or they go to the mall and to get across Harewood Road to go and do their shopping or off to have a coffee over at the Mitre 10. And it also provides mode choice and for travel and the connection to other cycleways around the city. So these were some of the issues that I sort of touched on earlier that were raised by submitters. We received, just as a breakdown from Harewood Road itself, we received 172 submissions from residents and businesses on Harewood Road. And probably the biggest thing was the loss of parking. So in relation to the residents, the loss of parking was, for them, a lot of people were concerned about home services being able to get to their property, the likes of Nurse Maud, Meals and Wheels, lawn mowing contractors. Also concerned about if they had family or friends visiting and they couldn't get a park outside their house, that they wouldn't come and visit them. And once we received that feedback, Ollie and I went and met with Age Concern and just spoke to them about the concerns that were raised by these older people living on Harewood Road. And they saw, their feedback was that the services that are provided, if they can't get a park up the driveway, they're happy to park on the street because it's able-bodied people that are visiting these people, and they wouldn't not visit people if there was not parking outside the house. So that was good to hear. And they've also offered support that they can also provide a service where they can pick up and drop off people as well. Feedback from the businesses around loss of parking. Again, like I mentioned earlier, there is a real range of businesses and organisations on Harewood Road. Some of them have off-street parking and some do rely on the parking on-street. The rest homes and retirement villages, a lot of their visitors are often elderly and need to be able, if they can't park on site, or park on the street. And similar concerns we had from Palmer Funeral Services, who have a small car park and also rely, if the funeral's quite big, even though the chapel's not overly large, they do rely on on-street parking for some of their funerals. Excuse me. We've received a lot of feedback around the lane reduction and what the impact of going from the 4 lanes down to 2 will mean. And it was around, people felt that it would cause congestion and a reduction in travel times, but Ollie will speak more about that a bit later on. And another one that came through was the cost of the project. So people felt that the money could be better spent elsewhere in the city. There was roads and especially on the eastern side of the city that still need work done, and they felt that the money would be best spent and in other parts of the city, and they don't see cyclists using Harewood Road at the moment. And just some few other things is around the impact on the 2 sports parks, and also the changes that we've made at Chapel and Sale Street with the turning restrictions onto Harewood Road and the Wilmot Street closure. And finally, just touching on the submissions that we received from both the community boards. Both community boards support the Cycleway program, the citywide Cycleway program. The Waimeadow, Whenutun, Waimari, Harewood Community Board were concerned about parking loss for their residents and businesses and the impact of restricted parking. The bus stops, buses, if they're parked next to a Cycleway, people getting on and off the bus. The proposed tree removal in the original consultation plan at Bishopdale Roundabout and up at Kilmuir Lane. And traffic, the reduction of the 4 lanes down to 2, however, supporting the Harewood Gardeners Breens signals, and also flagged they were concerned about the cost of the project. The Waipapa Papanui Innis community boards, like I said, support Cycleway program across the city, support the investment in active transport modes, and it's supporting the council's declaration of a climate and ecological emergency. Support the intersection changes in the area and the connection to all the schools, but also raise concerns with the team around parking loss outside rest homes and also outside businesses. And I think that's you now.
So if we take that consultation feedback and pull it into a plan and put some pull-outs on it and see where the areas are that the public have concerns and where we need to focus our attention. And starting at the western end, look, around the Harewood School, there was a lot of support for the signalised pedestrian crossing, particularly by the school that saw that as a real bonus to improve the safety for their students crossing over. At the same time, there was concern by some of the parents around the loss of parking outside the school. The school's view on that was that the safety improvements were much more important. The Breens Gardeners intersection, as Anne said, there was a lot of support still around there. The the public are finding it difficult to come out of Gardner's Road and Breens Road, and that also provides a good connection through to the schools. Bishopdale Roundabout, concern around the traffic flow. How will that intersection operate with the partial signals on it, and why do so many trees need to be removed? Through the central section, parking, a very strong focus on Copenhagen Bakery and the high demand of on-street parking there. It's a very popular business. Congestion associated with the removal of a traffic lane and new traffic signals. Residential parking reduction, particularly around people having access to the properties, people coming to visit, and social isolation. Down at the eastern end, there was concern around the two-way on the north side of the road running past Golden Age. Safety concerns with the operation of that, and associated with that, the restriction of Chapel Street and Sales Street to entry only or exit only, and the cul-de-sac at Wilmot Street. So before we go on, if we just wanted to pause there and see if there's any questions around the consultation feedback.
Just, sorry, this is actually the first time that I've chaired a Cycleway hearings panel, so thank you very much for the level of detail that you've provided. It's extremely helpful. I know the area very well. I grew up in Papanui, and I used to go and pick raspberries at Harrow's on Sawyers Arms Road, so I've cycled this route, or parts of this route, way before it got busy with traffic. So, but I just wanted to ask a preliminary question, which has been puzzling me for some time, and that is that the underpass to the airport at Johns Road seemed to be decided quite separately from the conversation that we're having now. So who made that call, and when was that decision made?
Oh, look, yeah, I don't have the information to better answer that. Maybe Lynette?
Yes. When... I couldn't answer the when off the top of my head, apologies, but it was made by NZTA. So that was the decision to put the underpass under Johns Road at the top of Hewood Road was made by NZTA as part of the Johns Road upgrade that finished a couple of 3 years ago.
And that's the one of the RONs, Roads of National Significance.
It was one of the it was off the back of one of the RONs projects, in the so there was the Western Belfast bypass that was put in, and then the improvements around Johns Road and right round to Carmen Road. So It was off the back of all of those projects that were joined together, yes.
It's just a preliminary question. I know it's not specifically relevant, but I just wanted to have it clear in my head. Did you know when that decision was made, Aaron?
It was post-quake, and it was, the irony is Nairi Button and myself lobbied hard to get it, because we'd received submissions during the rebuild of Christchurch to do it, that the airport wouldn't be accessible, but it was as much for recreation mountain biking as it was for ever accessing the airport.
So it was to access that road around. Yep. No, that's good. Thank you. Thank you. A mystery has been solved. Thank you.
And it's also won awards for its design.
So you said that there's significant interest from across the city on this one. Is that because not all the people that would want to use it would be living in the immediate vicinity, or is this normal? I mean, because I'm sort of asking a more generic question because I haven't sat on one of these before. But is it normal for quite a a broad range of people putting input in like this?
Oh, absolutely. I think as we've gone on with the Cycleway consultation, every time we do another consultation, it does generate interest citywide as people start to use them. And there's a number of cycling groups out there. For example, with our information sessions next week, we've got a group called Wednesday Wheelies.
Yeah.
So there's been a lot of older adults have formed cycling groups, and I think as a citywide project, that they do see the bigger picture in terms of the program of cycleways that we're putting.
The network.
Yeah,
Yes,
the network
yeah.
of and how
Okay.
they can connect. Yeah.
That's very helpful.
I'd add.
Yep.
Sorry, I was just going to add. Part of that is the fact that we are connecting up a network.
Yeah.
Just creating that.
Other panellists, do you have questions? Aaron?
Yeah, I have some. So our design seems to be based around, following on from the Mayor's first question, around the underpass, but the design at Memorial Ave is considerably different to when the underpass design went in, which was to obviously go under. It's very easy to cycle. I see people scooter through the Memorial Ave intersection and stuff now, yet we've stuck with this design, and people say, why? Because if you're coming from town, it's 2k further to go via Harewood Road to the airport than go straight up Memorial Ave.
The decision's been made for this route. We're talking about the
Yeah,
design.
and it seems to be based on that underpass, not based on like numbers. So my question is, have we seen the numbers of the people that are at the airport or on the airport campus who want to bike to work and where they're coming from to support? Yes, it is Harewood Road, and you would use the underpass because they're all coming from there.
Aaron.
Or is someone in Burnside going to go the long way?
No, we've made the decision that Harewood Road is the route. So what we're
so when that decision was made, where was the evidence around who was coming from where?
Look, I'm happy for that to be taken offline, but it's
important.
It's not an issue for our hearings panel. We are developing the approach. We're going to hear submissions on the
Well, that
on
did
the
come
design.
up a number of times in the consultation.
Yes, and the issue is going to be the design, not the route. Sorry, Mike.
I guess following on, there's no requirement that if you use the cycleway, you have to bike from one end to the other, is there? No, thank you.
Right. So, but that's not necessarily as helpful as it might have sounded. Aaron, did you have other questions in relation to the design proposal?
Yes. So the because it's come up a lot in the feedback, the reduction of the 2 lanes down to 1, because that's one of the big sticking points along with the parking and stuff. But I don't have any questions around that. But the reduction on an 18,000 vehicle a day road. And I'd asked the question in the past, but no one had the info. Has it been done in New Zealand before? Have we reduced 2 lanes to 1 with that volume of traffic? Because when I looked it up, overseas, that model's normally around a maximum of 12,000 vehicles. You would do a reduction, 8 to 12, so maximum of 12.
Yeah, look, there's a number of roads that are carrying 18,000 vehicles and they have 1 lane in each direction.
It's not the question.
I realise that's not the question. But there are a number of roads that have that. Up in Auckland, and I'll come to that in the central section presentation, there is a road up in Auckland that has been reduced, and that was running at, I think, about 20,000 or 22,000 vehicles, and it's now 1 lane in each direction, and it's created a cycleway, wider footpaths and urban landscaping. So yes, it has been done before.
So it has. What road was that? So I can look it up.
When we come to that 4-lane section, I'll point that out.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And then finally, when the analysis was done, it had a whole lot of different analysis, but the one that was missing, because it came up again during the consultation, was the cycle count. What was that?
So the cycle volumes currently on Harewood Road at the underpass is 100 riders a day.
Right.
Around the Nunwick Park section, 150 riders, increasing to 150, 200 as you head down to the eastern end, so Bishopdale Mall through to the Chapel Street area.
Oh, right. And when was that cycle count done?
That was early this year.
Right, because I've had emails from people complaining that they'd asked the council for those numbers when they were going to do their submissions and couldn't get them. Why were they never made available?
I'm not aware of that.
Okay.
It's not something that's come to us to answer, but there have been, and as part of council's ongoing traffic counts, a lot of the counts do include pedestrian and cycle movements, but not all of them.
Yeah. I think we should publish those because what people in the public were saying were not those numbers.
Right.
So if we have that, factually, we should be saying, hey, look, these are the numbers from our traffic counts.
That would be very helpful. I mean,
So-
part of the reason why I
Well,
wanted
people are saying
this-
20.
Yeah, but the part of the reason why I wanted this briefing to be live streamed was so that the collateral material is available publicly and people clearly understand what the issues are.
Yep.
So and also obviously myself gets up to speed with all of the elements of it. That would be really good if you could publish that data. Be extremely helpful. I think the public would find that incredibly useful. Mike, did you have a question? Yep.
Sorry, can I just add to that? All of our cycle information is published and it's live on our website. So what I'll do is through other forums, but I'll make sure that it's made available and the links to it are made available through this the web page for this.
That would be great because every now and again, and I'm not being critical, but sometimes I find it hard to find information that I'm looking for on our council's website.
Can be. We're looking to simplify that too.
Yeah. Okay, Mike.
Thanks. Couple of questions. So there's already been a previous decision to reduce Heward Road from 4 lanes to 2 lanes.
Yes, that was in 2010, just prior to the quakes.
Okay. And there's obviously been...
Sorry, that is absolute news to me. I didn't know that.
Yes, it was my understanding it was initiated by Breen's Intermediate because of their concern for cycling to school. Also,
Sorry, was that a city council decision?
Yes, that's right. That was in 2010. There was consultation with the community and then a council decision to provide a cycle lane on Heward Road by removing a traffic lane.
Right.
It was never built because the earthquakes came along.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
I assume we've done modelling on the reduction of 2 lanes and also the improvements to Sawyer's Arms Road. So what is the
team will cover this in detail, Councillor.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, and I've got Jason. Sorry, I missed your yellow hand, so thank you for letting me know.
No problem, thank you. Just a quick question in terms of the linkages from the school. So around the initial consultation question, was there any consideration of the linkages between the cycleway and the schools? Because they're kind of a few hundred metres to 300, 400, 600 metres back, and so those connections there. Was there any kind of consideration on whether there will be any more formal linkages between the schools and the cycleways in future, or was that considered as part of the consultation process?
That's probably one for me. That's part of the broader Cycle Connections program that we have got as part of the LTP. So there is a couple of programs of work going through the LTP that look to link key trip generators like shopping malls or schools or any other type of facility where we think larger numbers of people want to get there by bike or other active means. And so that and one of those is actually specifically looking at linkages off MCRs, particularly to education facilities.
Right, thank you.
Yeah, definitely in the program.
Very good. Oh, thank you for that, and we'll now move on to is it the West End we're starting from?
Yes, that's correct.
Design change. Oh yeah, right. Okay.
So we'll take a look now at the design changes. So what we've heard from consultation and how we've responded to that. We'll present this in the 3 sections that I talked about earlier, And at the end of each of these sections, we'll pause for questions.
Great.
So the West End submission responses, there's concern around Whitchurch Place, around the removal of parking for the school and the narrow path. So that's the picture in the top left corner there. And effectively, we'd like to widen that path, but it is narrow. And the grass that you see next to it's a stormwater swale, so it's very difficult to widen the path into that area. How we've been able to respond to the community with this is to provide some bollards through there and improve the connection onto Whitchurch Place, which works very well as a cycle connection outside of the school peak periods. So at the start and end of the school day, it's very busy with parents and caregivers coming and going, but outside of that, it's a really low parking demand. Nunwick Park and the high parking demand that's observed during sporting events, and the two photos on the right there show Nunwick Park and the existing path that would be widened to create the shared path. And in the bottom right is between Kilmore Lane and Nunwick Boulevard, where there are the mature trees in that location. So the design removes 17 parks from the bottom right photo, so between Kilmore Lane and Nunwick Boulevard. And that's so the trees can be retained there, but it also minimises the parking loss through this section compared to other options. And I'll talk about the other options in another slide. At Nunwick Boulevard, there's the proposed signals and platform, and there was concern around that stopping traffic movements and potential noise associated with that. With the signals at Waldridge Road, some of the residents have phoned and said, look, you're going to lose some of the parking there, which is a requirement for the signals, but also the access to their property is going to change now. And particularly during peak periods, it'll be more difficult to enter and exit. It isn't any different to any other residential property adjacent to signals, but it will be a change for this location. And at the same time, there's support for the signals there. So the photo in the bottom left corner shows Waldridge Road during one of the peak periods, and there's a number of cars queued there, and there are reasonably large delays in the evening peak. And support for the signals up at the school, like I'd said earlier, particularly from Harewood School. And then at Stanley Road, the design that was consulted on had the riders stopping for any traffic that was waiting at the limit line on Stanley Road. So we've done a review of the design in that section. So what concepts had we considered prior to consultation, and what do we consider post-consultation to mitigate the parking and signals concern that I've just talked about? One option is to continue or provide a two-way cycleway on the north side. I'll just bring up the laser pointer here. So instead of having the cycleway on the southern side of Harewood Road, provide the cycleway on the northern side of Harewood Road and continue that all the way up to Harewood School. A two-way on the north side removes 50 on-street parks. The consultant design removes 17, so it's a much higher parking loss. It also requires modification of a swale, which is the photo in the top right, and potential relocation or undergrounding of power poles. And that continues along Harewood Road. This is outside the veggie shop, the photo looking back towards Papanui. You can see the power poles and swales, and continues all the way along Harewood Road up to Harewood School. Now, if a two-way was provided up to Harewood School, there'd be additional parking loss through that section, which at the moment has been minimised. So primarily due to the additional parking loss of a two-way option on the north side, this option isn't preferred, but it's also an additional cost to construct. Another option considered to mitigate that parking and signals concern was continuation of the one-ways from the central section, so coming from Papanui, and continue the one-way on either side of the road all the way up to Harewood School. This also has a number of car parks that would need to be removed, and that would be on the north side of Harewood Road, similar to the two-way option, and has the similar concepts, conflicts with the swale and power poles. If it was to continue up to Harewood School, it would have a similar impact, but it does remove the signals from the Nunwick Boulevard area. But noting that Nunwick Boulevard area, there are bus stops on either side of the road, so it's reduced connectivity for people using public transport. It retains some parking in the Kilmore Lane block between Nunwick Boulevard and Kilmore Lane, and it provides some parking outside of the veggie business. An option to reduce the impact on the Harewood School area would be to cross the two-way over to the proposed one-way, shared path on the south side of Harewood Road, so through here. So that as the consultant design and cross over at the Waldridge signals. That does, though, move the delay that was down at the mid-block signals. It moves that to Waldridge Road, so it has additional capacity impacts on Waldridge Road. So this option also wasn't preferred because it has a higher parking removal from the park area and additional costs. So what are the key changes that we've made post-consultation? So up at Whitchurch, we have provided the bollards, which separate the narrower path from the parking that currently occurs there, which is Angle Park during the start and end of the school period. This option here retains the maximum number of parks or removes the least number of parks in this area. At Stanley's Road, we have set back the cycle and pedestrian crossing to allow for a vehicle to sit at the Stanley's limit line and riders to pass behind the vehicle. And at Kilmore Lane, the cycle facility has been moved closer to the property boundary. And what that allows is people coming from Papanui that are turning left into Kilmore Lane to position their vehicle out of the flow of the traffic. So it's safer for the people turning left in, and it allows them to observe users of the path. Are there any questions around the West End?
Almost wish we could have a fly through and look at the different options in the way. I'll start with you, Jason.
Thank you very much. So just a question on the shared path on the south side past Nunwick Park. Now, will that lead to any reduction in parking from the amount that's there? And just as a supplementary to that, has there been any investigation to either putting slanted parking or changing the parking orientation there to increase the number of parks you could potentially get to offset any losses?
Can you go back to the Nunwick Park slide? Sorry, it's easier to look while we talk.
All right, so that's the picture, the photo in the top right corner.
Right.
Yes, so directly outside the park there are 3 car parks removed. 2 of them are for a bus stop. So the design requirements around bus stops has changed. Bus stops now need to be longer, and the tapers leading into them and out of them are longer. So that removes 2 parks to make the bus stop that's currently there compliant. And down by Kilmore Lane there is a removal of a park to improve sight lines between people exiting Kilmore and cycleway users. In terms of the angle parking query, it's not something that we have considered through that section to increase the parking demand.
Is it?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Sorry, I was just the parking. The parking at the weekends is like it's everywhere, isn't it? Is it just a weekend problem, or largely a weekend problem?
Yeah, during sporting events,
Yeah.
which are predominantly in the weekend, that the area is full.
Yeah.
The parking demand continues along Harewood Road. It spills over into Nummock Boulevard and around the roads off there. And speaking with the bakery, they often see the spillover from the park as far down as the bakery.
Yeah.
So in terms of trying to meet the demand for parking, it's just not possible to do for pretty much any park around the city.
Yeah. Okay.
Just on that, it's actually busier during week nights during the summer when touch is on, because there's
Right.
more players and using less areas. There's a lot more users. Like a rugby game doesn't have as many people as like kids touch and stuff. So and we get complaints at community board level the parking in Nunweek Boulevard and stuff, and that there's no fire truck access, so on and so forth, because of the consequences already.
That is correct.
Is there any trade-off in terms? I mean, I know it's a dreadful question to ask, but is there any trade-off in terms of encroaching into the park and creating some more dedicated parking off Harewood Road altogether?
That's something that could be investigated, and that would be in consultation with the parks and reserves.
Yeah, no, I understand that, and I know it's not, probably technically part of this, but it does seem that some of these issues are problems that require solving, and if it's not going to, change by way of demand, then it seems unfortunate that it's the use of the park that generates the high volumes.
There's a considerable amount of grass verge before you get to the park fence at the moment, and also Jason's point around angled or perpendicular parking is that it's now a 50k road. When those parks were put in, I think it was a 70k road, so it's a different environment now.
So you can put angle parking in there.
Well, staff could look into it potentially.
Yeah.
Yes,
Only
that's something we could to look at. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Sorry. Yeah. Sorry, Emma.
I've got a question. Does this new preferred design, does that retain more parking along this stretch than the design that went out for consultation?
It's the same.
The same?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Mike.
Just a couple of things. If we look at Angle Park, just got to check, I guess, the safety of them having to back out into a live traffic lane.
Yeah, that's right. Look, there's good guidelines around the geometric requirements of changing from a parallel park to an angle park or 45-degree park, and what the clearance to the traffic lane would need to be. So we'd have to go away and look at that.
Yeah. So did you say the reason why you didn't consider changing the shared path to the north side was because of more loss of car parking?
That is correct. Yeah.
Do we know what side has the most demand for car parking?
Through the section from Waldridge Road down to Harewood School, there's not a very high parking demand through that section. As you get down to Harewood School, it's predominantly on the south side, and then on the north side associated with the start and end of the school day.
Yeah.
With the Nunwit Park activities, it fills up firstly on the south side and then spills over to the north, and then it's just where people can find a place to park. So we've looked at, in terms of assessing the area, providing the maximum number of parks that are close to Nunwit Park rather than the direct what side of the road it would be on there.
Okay.
All right. There any no more? Okay. Oh, Jason, sorry.
Sorry, there was just one more from me. Sorry. Was there any with obviously the changes in a small loss of parking? I understand there's the signalised intersection at Woolridges, which is being considered. But is there any pedestrian protection for the parking that would be on the north side of the road that is quite a way away from the signalised intersection to be able to cross through to Nunwit Parks? I'm aware there'll be a lot of people parking on that north side and a lot of kids going to these midweek and generally midweek activities, crossing directly across. Has there been any consideration around any protection, whether it's not pedestrian, but any kind of islands or whatever it is in that particular section?
So through that section, there's a reasonably wide swale or berm available for people to walk along, and we haven't looked at providing a footpath along that section. But as you come up to the proposed signals at Waldridge, it does have a pedestrian crossing over Harewood Road, and in that location, exiting Waldridge Road, there are dedicated left and right turn lanes, so you could have full or partial protection for pedestrians depending on whether there's a sporting event on or the time of day. So at the intersection, yes, pedestrian provisions and protection.
So that signal at Waldridge, that's for that's cars as well.
That's correct. Yeah. So the T intersection.
But you can
would be
still turn
signalised.
right.
Yes.
Because people describe to me the experience of coming down that road and turning right into Harewood Road as the sun's coming up, because it's a real blind spot. Apparently, haven't personally done that at that time of the day myself, but they said that there were a lot of near misses because people can't see the traffic. So actually, signalisation would be a safety feature.
Yeah, I mean, at that location too, you've got Harewood Road that's running in the east-west direction. So in the morning peak, you've got the low sun, which makes it more difficult. And then the parking adjacent to the park. So a combination of those factors would make it difficult for people to turn right out.
Yeah.
So it would be an improvement to the...
It would be an improvement. It's not just for pedestrians and cyclists, it would be an improvement for vehicles as well.
Yes, and that's the photo in the bottom left there that has the long queue of traffic there. And at the moment, it's a very poor level of service in the evening peak, people turning right out.
Yeah. Sorry, Mike.
There's the crossing before Skydale. I see it's still offset from Skydale. Was there submissions to actually bring that in line to let cars get out of there? Because I've spoke to a few people that said they have a bit of difficulty getting out in the mornings with the increased car, and they were actually wanting it to be moved so they could use it as well. Was there any thought about that?
So that was signalising the intersection of Nunwit Boulevard.
Oh, was it Nunwit Boulevard? Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, that was considered, and the feature of having the pedestrian and cycle signals close to the intersection, what it does is it minimises the delay to Harewood Road through traffic. But it also creates a gap in the traffic stream by creating platoons so people can turn right out. So that's one of the outcomes of all the additional signals along Harewood Road, is that while it slows down the people that are driving along Harewood Road, it provides opportunity for people to turn out of the side roads.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Moving on Oh, one more from.
Just
Aaron,
one small one, because
No.
the irony wasn't lost. With the removal of car parks at Nunwink Park or around there, and it's not a huge number, did we offset that with any submissions saying from people, because a lot use it, that great, now I'll actually bike to my sports events or to the Kids Touch or whatever? Do we actually get any? That use that as an example of something that they would do now because it was suddenly safe. Because I mentioned other locations, I'm just wondering if that one
You
came
got
up.
your button on?
Oh,
Yeah.
yes. I would have to go back and look. But
I
can
don't
see-
recall seeing it myself, but it doesn't
Yeah.
mean it wasn't there.
No, we can do a quick search and then have it.
Oh, for
check
the
that.
word Nunwick.
Yep.
Oh,
Yep,
okay.
yep,
That,
yep.
that'd be good,
Yeah.
because, if there's...
Doesn't mean they won't, though, start biking if it gets built there.
Yeah, but people have been saying for years, we want a bike to school, which normally means they probably will. And if people are going to do it to sport as well, it's good to know. If it is there, just backs it up.
All right. Okay. On to the next phase. Now, are we going to the east end now?
Yes, that's down to the east end. So now we're looking at Greer's Road to the railway line. So, key responses and submissions received. The Harewood Road, Greer's intersection, a lot of support around addressing the safety concern that's been observed there. So a number of people turning right from Greer's Road, heading along to Harewood Road. There's a crash history there, and there's the safety improvement that's going to provide right turn arrows and all of those movements. That also allows for protection of the pedestrians crossing via the red lights. So a lot of support for the Greer's intersection. Support for the signals down by Matson's Ave, Chapel Street area. Because Harewood Road's quite busy down there, and you have the rest homes, so Wesley Care, Golden Age, the road is really a barrier. And as Anne mentioned, there's a lot of people from Wesley Care that head across to the likes of Mitre Mega 10 and get a coffee. That's like a social hub there where people are meeting up. But there's also couples that are split between the two rest homes. They may have started off together at Wesley Care and then one of them's moved over to the higher dependency at Golden Age. And it's allowing those people to easily cross the road. So there's a lot of support for the signals to go in to remove that barrier. The signals in that location also connect up the bus stops that are well utilised by the elderly. There's concern with the two-way cycleway on the north side of Harewood going past Golden Age. And that's predominantly around the ability for people to enter and exit the three driveways that are along there. Associated with the two-way on the north side is the need to restrict Sale Street and Chapel Street to exit or enter only. And that's to help address the safety issue that you have with the two-way for contraflow riders. So riders that are riding towards the traffic in the unexpected location are at a higher risk, and we restrict the movements at side roads to help mitigate that risk. At Wilmot Street, that's been cul-de-saced or proposed to be cul-de-saced at Harewood Road, and that eliminates any vehicles turning across the riders. Also concerned in that area around the removal of parking associated with visitors to the rest home. If we consider what concepts were evaluated for this area, the recommendation from a technical perspective was to provide one-way cycleways from Greer's Road through to Chapel Street. That's the safest outcome for people riding and the most intuitive for drivers. However, to achieve that, all of the car parking from Greer's Road to the railway line needed to be removed. And when we presented this to the joint community boards, it was unanimous feedback that the impacts on the residents and the businesses was too great, and that the compromise of providing a two-way along with the restrictions to the side roads on the north side was a better outcome. We evaluated a two-way on the south side of Harewood Road. Now that has the same concern with crossing over Wesley Care now instead of Golden Age, but also the two-way cycleway would be closer to the property boundaries because the offset from the property boundary to the cycleway is less on the southern side. And the restrictions to Harris Crescent movements, Matson's Ave movements is far greater impact on the residents because the blocks are bigger. So people have to drive further to get to their destination. To help address the Golden Age concern around the accessway, we looked at extending the one-ways from the railway line past Chapel Street up to the Sales Street area. And that would then require an additional mid-block crossing for pedestrians and cyclists. So while it was technically feasible, it resulted in an additional set of traffic signals, and it wasn't supported from the traffic operations perspective. You would then have a number of signals over a short length of road. With the parking demand in this area, it's quite a high parking demand along Harewood Road, east of Chapel Street and up towards Sales Street. And a majority of that parking demand is long-term or all-day parking. And some of it's related to the Northlands Mall and the other business activities in the area with the rest homes. And it's what we've tried to do is take the parking that is now available and provide some parking restrictions to encourage that higher turnover. But the parking that's occurring there at the moment is more commuter parking, and that spills on to Hawani Street, Chapel Street. We noted a lot of students from Papanui High School parking in this area. So while the parking's been removed, it is displaced parking, and there is parking available in the side streets. People need to walk a bit further, but when you're parking all day, that's not such a concern as if it's a dairy reliant on the high turnover parking. So what are the key changes that we have made post-consultation? This 3D visualisation looks along Harewood Road towards Papanui. And you see the two-way cycleway on the northern side, central flush median and parking on the southern side. So that's the design as consulted. So the key concerns we had were around the Wilmot Street area. So Team Dental and Palmer's Funeral that are on the corner of Wilmot Street and Harewood Road, the design restricted access to their off-road car parks. So in consultation with them, moving the cul-de-sac head up to Hawani Street opens up their car parks, but it also opens up Wilmot Street for overflow parking. So as Anne mentioned, at Palmer Funeral, there is spillover parking outside of their off-street car park into the street. So as part of that, we're providing P120 parking restrictions along the western side of Wilmot Street. So that discourages that all-day parking, but makes the parking more available for Palmers during events. Sales Street and Chapel Street, the one-ways at the intersections have been reversed. And this is based on feedback from the chapel on the corner here and from Mitre 10. Mitre 10 were concerned about people rat running through their car park and using that as an alternative to Chapel Street. And it was observed that vehicles and people were rat running from Matson's Ave. At the moment, it's quite difficult to turn right out of Matson's Ave. So people are turning left out of Matson's, right into Chapel, and doing a U-turn in the Chapel Street car park, and then turning left and heading down to Papanui Road. So by working with these two businesses, we're able to identify some of the intricacies of how the area's operating and swap around those intersections. A consequence of changing these roads is that additional parking needs to be banned at the Langdon's Road, Chapel Street. Now that's to improve visibility for people exiting Chapel Street, but also to allow for the heavy vehicle movements into the Mitre 10 area. Now, this option and the changes we've made, it doesn't address the issues raised by Golden Age. And we're going back to Golden Age and confirming with them that we'll design the line marking, the signage in accordance with the latest design standards, but we're also going to take a look at providing active flashing lights that pick up either when a vehicle's exiting Golden Age or when there is a rider on the cycleway passing Golden Age to raise awareness. And that's something that we'll develop in conjunction with them. Are there any questions?
Aaron.
Sorry, I'll only ask the one really obvious one. It's not our end of town, so we try not to have too much say on it. But because it's been raised by some of the old people's homes, that if an outsider's to look at that design, they'd say, why are we putting in traffic lights for cyclists that can bike all the way to the airport or bike all the way to town? And you'd assume they're quite sharp and fit and healthy, yet we're not putting in signals for elderly people who actually need care. And that, who are probably sight impaired, hearing impaired, faculty impaired, all sorts. How would we explain that to people?
So the first point would be that not all of the riders are going out to the airport and riding the full length of Harewood Road. If we look at the cycle numbers on the route at the moment, the highest volumes are up at this end, heading through to Bishopdale Mall. So there's a lot of shorter trips. People going to Papanui High School, heading towards the church, heading down to Bishopdale Park. So they're not all long trips. And some of them, with the interest, a bit concerned. You're talking about a young rider, so an 8-year-old that they don't ride long distances. In terms of providing improved crossings for elderly, I agree with you, and I'm not sure what the answer to that is in terms of how do we provide that more equitable crossings and designs around the city. What this proposal for Harewood Road does is it does provide a lot more signalised intersections that provides greater opportunities for the elderly and the young to cross.
The elderly homes there, because they're across the road from each other, so that's a pretty obvious point. They've been asking for a pedestrian crossing. They asked for the original zebra one, but we don't seem to do them anymore for 15 years that I know of.
Yeah, I'm unable to provide any information on that, but we can have a look and come back to you on that.
This is the proposal, isn't it, to put in?
No, it's got a refuge island, but it's not a signalised crossing of any sort, or even a zebra crossing.
You go back?
Yeah,
I thought it was a pedestrian signal.
If I could clarify that.
Oh, sorry,
then.
maybe it has got a signal. Did I read it wrong?
It has, yeah. So this here, that's Chapel Street.
Yeah.
And this is Golden Age and Wesley Care.
Yeah.
These signals here are pedestrian and cyclist signals.
Yeah.
And there's been really positive feedback from both Wesley Care and Golden Age about these signals opening up the route through to Mitre 10, the coffee shop area, opening up the bus stops, improving that connectivity between the two rest homes, particularly where couples have been split between the two rest homes.
Yeah.
And there's also their blood testing that they often go to up here. It's a bit further away, but yeah. These signals here have been well supported by both the rest homes.
Okay. So what's the one in the picture then? Because is that a
So that is a existing refuge, and we're
so
trying
that's coming
to
out.
we're trying to retain all the existing refuges where they
so
are.
it stays there.
That's right. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So
Yeah. So the signals are in the background, kind of about there.
right. Oh yeah. For an older person that's hard of walking, they'll enjoy the trip.
Well, if they're going to Mitre 10, it's perfectly in line with where they're
I don't
going.
think they're allowed to do maintenance on those places themselves. But
No. There's a coffee
Oh, right.
shop. There's a coffee shop there.
yeah, Columbus.
I've actually been to it myself.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm not a
I go there
handy
quite a bit.
person at all.
I go there. I haven't seen Mike there, but I go there quite a bit.
Yeah, no, look, okay. Are there any questions on this, Emma, and then Mike?
I'm sure you're well aware of the traffic issues on Langdon's Road at the moment, which we hear a lot about. What does the modelling show on the impacts of those changes to Wilmot and Sales and Chapel? What impact do they have on Langdon's?
The modelling hasn't shown any impact on Langdon's that's noticeable. So Sales Street isn't highly used at the moment as a through route. Wilmot's really low volume, kind of less than 500 vehicles a day on it. Chapel Street's used more as a rat run. But the modelling didn't identify Langdon's as really being affected by those proposed changes. And the same person that's been modelling Heyward Road is also involved in that Langdon's area assessment.
Thanks.
Mike?
Thanks. Just a question on the two one-way cycleways. Did you look at doing? Because I'm a bit concerned with the amount of volume that goes into the Mitre 10 there and that conflict. Did you look at doing a bidirectional on the south side instead of two one-ways?
Yes, yeah, we did look at that, and our first cut of the design continued a two-way through this section, and then we pulled a two-way or bidirectional across to the south side for that one section. What we were observing though is that for your riders that are eastbound, so heading in this direction here, they were unlikely to cross here, come along, and then cross again to head up towards the Northlands Mall area, Papanui High School area. So retaining the eastbound on the north side was the preference.
So what's your plans then for that conflict point at Mitre 10?
So the Mitre 10 access, it is busy. It's a two-lane exit. It has a number of vehicles coming out that tow trailers and that kind of thing, but not just over the weekends. The Waka Kotahi has a good guide on how to treat high-volume access ways. And that includes signage, in some cases the use of judder bars, and also the new line marking that's proposed there provides the green cycle blobs. Instead of being solid green, it's green boxes, and that has more of an appearance of a zebra crossing. And the observations of that was that it slows down riders, so it makes them more aware that they're crossing over, but also slows down vehicles turning in. So we'd design that and mark it to the latest guidelines.
What's the width of the traffic lanes in that section?
In the proposal,
Yeah, just outside Mitre 10.
they are 3.4.
I'm just it does concern me because you just got to go to Mitre 10, which I've never seen Aaron at though. Don't know what happens. Oh, you must go at night time because when I go there it's full. No, seriously though, I'm concerned with the amount of vehicles that actually go in and out of that and through that driveway, which is pretty constant for most of the day, and the conflict is going to be with bikes. Now, I understand
a more active cyclist probably doesn't want to cross the road and then have to cross back if they're going to be going north. But we're not just building these aren't really being built for those, really fit active cyclists. They're being built for people that actually want to get into cycling. They're a bit concerned that actually would rather, I think, not have to deal with that type of conflict and potentially cross the road and do a bi-directional on the other side. And I'm just wondering if there's enough room in the design to do something like that and allow those fit, confident people to actually jump onto a simple cycle lane on the road at that point.
Yeah, this is a complicated area, particularly because of the volumes at that access way, and we have reviewed a number of options. And one of the considerations in what you're talking about there is that some of the riders that want to head north may choose to use, and the experienced riders would choose to use Chapel Street rather than continue up to the railway line. And that provides a reasonably direct connection onto Langdon's Road, where there will be signals at that crossing at some stage. It'd be worthwhile for us to go back and review the options that we considered in that area.
I just highlight that's a concern to me. Do you know the traffic movements up through that for that business, for that entrance and exit?
Not off the top of my head, I don't know.
But it is monitored. You've got numbers for that, have you?
We made an estimate of the volume based off a consent application.
Right.
Yeah.
Because it is high. It is high. Yeah. Aaron.
Yeah, I'll have to agree with Mike on that one, that putting it on the south side makes a lot more sense, because at least half the people I would have thought would be turning right when they get to the railway line, or coming up the arc, which is right there, so you'd be crossing over to go to the arc anyway. And then the others, if you are going to Papanui High School or the mall, you'd probably use Chapel because it is the shorter route, and it's traffic's generally slow when you get to that corner because it's choked. So I mean, it's not if you're a fit cyclist, and if you're a scaredy cat, you'd stick to the well designed, nervous but happy route. But I have to agree with Mike, because that crossing point, I have seen crashes there. They're normally elderly people, hesitant, don't know the new layout, and you get just rear enders, nothing major, but it's a rear ender into a cyclist is not very cool.
Yeah.
Car on car's not so bad, but on when there's people involved. So if it was certainly a vote, I'd know which way I'd be voting. It'd be south side if we could do it. So to see some numbers around that would be good.
So just to be clear, I think what you're saying there is that retain the two-way on the north side of Harewood, cross over at the
Chapel
signals by Chapel,
Yeah.
and have a south side two-way on the south side from there through the north. Okay.
That would seem to make sense, I reckon.
Anyway, we're doing the briefing at the moment, and we've got hearings to hold, and but it's very useful to feed that into the process. Would you like to comment at all?
Yeah, look, the only thing I'd probably add to that, and it is something we did look at, so we can revisit that and just pull that back out to check again. If we were to pull the major cycle route as a two-way on the south side, we would need to consider how that two-way cycleway would interact with Matson's Avenue and St James Avenue traffic. So Matson's Avenue is a fairly busy road, so putting a two-way cycleway past that, even with a bit less traffic, the other side roads with similar volumes, we've put access restrictions on to mitigate those risks. So we'd certainly be looking at what the issues are of putting contraflow riders past
But
Matson's
is the start of the arc.
Yeah,
So-
but we'd have people maybe crossing down to the Northern Line major cycle route, so heading east on Harewood Road, then they might cross by Matson's Avenue, then ride contraflow on that southern side of the road to the Northern Line Railway. And so just thinking how we'd safely get those contraflow riders past Matson's Avenue and St James Avenue. Not that can't be done, but this is just a factor to
It'll be
add
good
into
to
it.
look at it and see what the volumes are coming out of those side streets compared to the Mitre 10, etc. Yeah, and it's just a bit hard to see in that diagram how it works at Mitre 10 as well. I assume that's
Where is it? That's not Mitre 10, is it?
Yeah, it's the big
That's the
There.
Mitre 10 access.
I was looking at
Yeah.
the picture above it.
Oh,
Yeah, it's up here. It's
I think it's that big orange line is meant to be
Yeah.
the building, and the white thing's the church.
That's correct.
It's Chapel Street.
Yeah, that's Chapel Street.
Yeah.
Oh, I
Mitre
see.
10 access is down here.
I thought it was Mitre 10.
Yeah, the lights aren't in the image.
Yeah.
You just move that bus stop, you know, the one that's kind of opposite Mitre 10, into the next block where the cycleway wouldn't be.
Yeah.
And that's only moving it by 50 metres. It's not because that's kind of a dangerous, because there's that pedestrian refuge, there's the Mitre 10 entrance and everything. It's a pinch point, which would potentially solve that problem as well.
Cool. Thanks.
All right. Well, we've got a very engaged panel. Thank you. That's good. Right. We're moving on to the next bit, the centre stage.
Okay, so the central section. This effectively is the 4-lane section. There's a lot of support, as Anne had said, around the Gardeners Breens intersection. This was approved by council in 2019. People find it difficult to cross there, so that's one of the design requirements of this project, is that intersection will be installed, and that we could make some minor changes to it as part of this project. There were concerns with the 4-lane to 2-lane reduction. A lot of people opposed the lane reduction due to congestion, and they were concerned that removing a lane would make it unsafe for them to enter or exit properties by holding up traffic behind them, and particularly with the high speeds that they're observing along that section of road, which, as I said earlier, are kind of 4 to 5k higher than you'd expect. The Bishopdale Roundabout, the traffic flow with the partial signalisation of the roundabout, and the removal of trees. Why did so many trees need to be removed? People find them iconic in the area. We also had feedback that the roundabout currently operates fine as it currently does. And then the Bishopdale Mall access is linked to the roundabout. People find it difficult to turn right out of Bishopdale Mall, and whether that could be included as part of the roundabout works. And then there's on-street parking removal, particularly around Copenhagen Bakery, came through a lot, Charity Hospital, parking reductions outside people's residences. How would the lawn mowing person go there? Meals on Wheels. Would it lead to social isolation of the elderly? And then Bishopdale Park, loss of parking at Bishopdale Park, and how, again, does that handle during sporting events? So firstly, the concern around the 4-lane to 2-lane reduction. And if we consider between intersections, will Harewood Road still work with 1 lane in each direction? Look, the simple answer to that is yes. This graph here, what it shows is on the vertical axis, the degree of saturation or the capacity used of a lane. And then on the horizontal axis, it shows the time of day. So you can see along the bottom there's 8 o'clock, 12 being midday, and 1600 being 4 in the afternoon. And then the graph is coloured. So the green section of the graph runs up to about 70% of available capacity used. And if you're operating under that 70% line, you've got free-flowing conditions. There's plenty of spare capacity. As you approach the yellow area, so 75 to 85, it starts to get more congested on the road. And as you head up to the red, 85 plus, you become bumper to bumper, flows become difficult. On the right here, we have the solid blue line. That is Harewood Road in the 4-lane section as it's currently operating. And on the graph, we can see that sitting down the bottom here at 10%. So it's saying that 10% of the available capacity in that 4-lane section is currently being used. So there's more than enough spare capacity to remove a traffic lane. The dotted blue line, this one here, that's Harewood Road with this proposed cycleway scheme. So it's removed a traffic lane, it's provided the signals along Harewood Road, and it's included the other capacity improvements in the network. So the Northcote Sawyers Arms intersection's been improved. And what that shows is that the capacity used jumps up to 30%. So it's still well within that green zone. It's showing that, yes, there's going to be a little bit more congestion along it, but there's still plenty of spare capacity for that road to operate with 1 lane of traffic. But it has other benefits with removing a traffic lane. So the width of the road in front of you reduces from 2 lanes to 1 lane, and it appears narrower. And when the lane appears narrower, people drive slower. So the best analogy of that is if you think about being on the open road, following a vehicle, and you come to a passing lane. You come to the passing lane, people always speed up. Well, they're not doing it on purpose. It's because the road in front of them is wide. They see a lot of pavement, it feels safe to drive faster.
They do it on purpose.
Some people may do it on purpose. So it's a psychological effect. You feel safer, so you drive quicker because you feel safer. And when you get to the end of the passing lane, you slow down again. And it's the same theory for Harewood Road, the same reason for narrowing up traffic lanes, and the same theory that goes with the placement of edge marker posts on the side of the road. If you squeeze the posts up tighter, people feel like they're driving quicker, they slow down. So an effect of removing the traffic lane is people will drive more slowly. And if they slow down, the likelihood of them having a crash reduces. And if they do have a crash, because they're going at a slower speed, the injury and the severity of the injury is likely to be less. It also makes the crossing the road more accessible. So instead of crossing over 2 lanes of traffic to get to the central median, you're crossing over 1 lane of traffic. And it's easy to cross over 1 lane of traffic. So compared to other roads, in yellow is Wairaki Road. That's currently 2 lanes. It's carrying a similar volume of traffic as to what Harewood Road will be catering for with the cycleway on it. And that's how we are expecting it to operate if it became 2 lanes. Very similar to Wairaki Road by Greer's Road. And then as a comparison, we've got Papanui Road and Northcote Road. Now those roads are catering for 27,000 vehicles on them at the moment, and they have 1 lane in each direction. And we know when you drive along those certain times of the day, they're really congested, and you are bumper to bumper, and it's difficult to get in and out of driveways. And we can see that as they're popping up into this yellow area here. So, Councillor Kerr, you asked earlier about other roads where the lane reduction had occurred, and the road is Key Street in Auckland, and that was catering for 22,000 vehicles on it. And that's been reduced from 4 lanes to 2. It's a slightly different scenario to this in that it's closer to the town centre. But it has reallocated the road space to active transport and improving the urban appeal of the area.
Just on that, so it still has, did it have optimal flow when it was 2 lanes in each direction?
I'm not aware of
Must
the
have
details.
looked like that.
Yeah.
Or pretty close to it. If it was it'd be pretty close, just above that blue line, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I'm not familiar with the Auckland
And
region, particularly that street.
And it still has optimal flow? Like people
We
just
can
get on there
find
and
that
flow
out.
along?
I mean, what street is it again?
Key.
Key.
That with a K or a Q?
Q.
Oh, Key Street, right. I know Key Street. We'll just get something from the council. We could give your colleagues in the Auckland City Council. Oh, no, it's not. It's Auckland Auckland Transport, is it? Or AT? Is it? Auckland Transport. Yeah.
They deliberately confuse traffic to make people motion.
Yeah, and to encourage other routes for the traffic to go on. Yeah.
Yeah.
But they deliberately confuse traffic. Get that effect.
So the point of this graph here, looking at the between intersections, you can reduce from 4 lanes to 2 lanes, and there's still going to be available capacity to cater for the volume of traffic on it. So how much will journey time along Harewood Road change? So towards the city, that's the graph in the bottom left corner there. On the vertical axis, we have time and travel time in minutes, and then along the horizontal axis, we have the peak periods of the day, so the morning, midday and evening. And then in grey, we have no MCR, so how the road's operating at the moment. And in green would be with the MCR and the 4-lane to 2-lane reduction. So typically, as you're driving towards the city, it's going to be an increased travel time in the order of average travel time of 40 seconds. So that's the equivalent to driving that route from Johns Road all the way through to Papanui Road, 3k an hour slower. And then towards the city, the graph in the top right, towards Johns Road, so heading out of the city, the same graph, the increase in travel time, if you drove the full length from Papanui Road through to Johns Road, would be in the order of 70 seconds. And that's during the morning peak period. And so that's about a 4k average speed slower along that route. Now this assumes a worst case scenario. So that assumes that people are driving the full length of Harewood Road, and it doesn't consider the benefits to the side road. So we know at the Gardeners Breens intersection, people find it difficult to cross. We're putting signals in there which allow people to cross over that. It stops the traffic on Harewood Road. Waldridge Road, it's difficult for people to turn right out. We're putting signals in there. Again, it's a delay to Harewood Road traffic. The Greer's intersection, the safety improvements, that's adding a delay to drivers of about 20 to 30 seconds. 20 to 40 seconds of additional delay at that intersection to improve the safety. So that's by adding in the right turn arrows. So while there's an increase in the time it's going to take people to drive the full length of Harewood Road, there are benefits to people on the side roads. And not just at the signals. So turning out of Laycroft Street, Cotswold, Crofton, what the signals do is they create gaps in the traffic. They create platoons of traffic. So instead of having a constant flow of vehicles, it creates a big gap. People can turn out of the side road and continue. And same for people crossing the road, entering and exiting their driveways. And that's on top of the reduction in overall speed of vehicles by that. That's currently 5k too high. So the main delays are at the intersections. So the reduction in traffic lane has very little effect on the flow and change in travel time. It's the intersections. And the intersections are designed with auxiliary turn lanes. So you have a dedicated left turn lane and a dedicated right turn lane. And that allows for protection of pedestrians and riders via red lights, be it partial protection with 6 seconds of red or full protection. Operation of the Bishopdale Roundabout. A lot of comments back on this, and it is unique for Christchurch. It's been used a lot up north, it's been used a lot worldwide, which is the partial signalisation or full signalisation of a roundabout. Removal of trees, a lot of feedback. In the original proposal, we were removing 12 trees. And a review of the arborist assessment and an update of the arborist assessment has said they are comfortable that we can retain a majority of those trees, but potentially we'll need to remove 3 of them. and those 3 trees may need to be removed due to damage to their roots during construction of the auxiliary turn lanes in the roundabout. So we need to go and do some trenching next to them to see where the roots are and what the size are and whether they'd be damaged.
So there is a possibility that they all remain, but because of the works going on the ground, it may be 3 are removed.
That's correct,
Right.
yes.
Okay.
A lot of feedback on better options for the intersection and alternate layouts for the intersection. So we did consider having a crossroad at this location, which moved Farrington Ave through the mall car park. That's all owned by council, and realigning the intersection to create something like Greer's Road. The efficiency of that intersection was less than what's shown in the consulted design. We also considered removing the central island and having Harewood Road straight through and creating a left-right stagger with signals. That was less efficient, particularly for the movement northbound and southbound, so the Farrington Ave, Highstead Ave route. So the partial signals, which stops the approach traffic on Harewood Road and stops the circulating traffic on the roundabout, but keeps Farrington Ave and Highstead on priority control, was the most efficient for traffic, and it also is the lowest cost to install, and it provides a big improvement in level of service for pedestrians crossing and for the riders coming through. In terms of the operation during peak periods, during the morning peak, Highstead Road becomes quite congested and it's difficult to get out of. The partial signals addresses that issue. And during the evening peak, Farrington Ave has the same issue of queuing up. So partial signalisation, it creates the gap in the traffic to allow people to come out of Farrington. As part of evaluating the roundabout, we looked at signalising the Bishopdale Court or Bishopdale Mall intersection. And that was primarily to address the right turnout concern that the public have. But it also allowed the cycleway to continue through the middle of the island and avoid crossing over the Caltex and subway driveways. Now, the modelling of that showed that the queues from the Bishopdale Court were leading back into the roundabout, which is similar to what's going to happen with the consulted design. However, drivers through the roundabout wouldn't be able to see the signals and wouldn't be expecting to see the queues. It also added complexity around exiting Bishopdale Court and providing footpaths and rat running through the private car park area. So to help understand how this intersection operates, we have produced a video using one of our modelling software packages. And this is showing the intersection operating during a midday peak period. And we've chosen the midday peak so you can see the riders coming through and the movement of the vehicles. At the information sessions, we have the same videos for the morning and evening peak periods and along the full route showing the operation of all the intersections. But essentially looking at the western end of Harewood Road, this traffic has a green light. When they have a green light, pedestrians and cyclists cross the circulating lane. And when it stops the traffic on Harewood Road, it gives the green light to traffic circulating in the circulating lane and allows the peds and cyclists to cross over here. And then the downstream side, so the exit of the roundabout here and over here, that operates on demand. So when there's a pedestrian or a rider there, that pushes the button. Parking impacts through the central section. Overall, we're removing around 50% of the car parks. So we expected there'd be a lot of feedback around the businesses, particularly from Copenhagen, a lot of people concerned around how the business would operate with a reduction in parking. And then the residences. So the parking removal primarily it's at intersections to improve sight lines, to improve it for pedestrians and riders. And like I said earlier, the bus stop requirements have changed. Bus stops now need to be longer, and the tapers leading in and out need to be longer. If we didn't do any changes to Harewood Road and the cycleway wasn't installed, we'd still need to remove around 20% of the parks along the road to provide the latest requirements for bus stops, improve intersection sight lines, and improve sight lines at pedestrian crossings. So anything above that 20% is what has been removed for the cycleway. So the parking surveys that we've undertaken show that there's a reasonably low demand for on-street parking, except at the key locations. So there's a high demand at the Copenhagen, at the dairies, where there's a high turnover, and then down at the eastern end with the mall, Papanui High, and the rest homes. The parking surveys also demonstrated that there's spare capacity along Harewood Road to accommodate the displaced parking. So while you can't park outside your house, you'll be able to park at the house next down. The road's not fully parked out. At those areas of high parking demand, so at the likes of Copenhagen Bakery, there won't be enough parking, and that displaced parking will be pushed into side streets. So Trafford Street, Breens and Gardners. And there is spare capacity in those streets for people to park away further. Now, to help manage the high parking demand at those key locations, we're implementing parking restrictions. So outside a dairy, where you have people that want to stop quickly, run in, pick up something, P5 parking. Outside the Copenhagen Bakery, directly outside, P10 parking. And down at the Wesley Care, Golden Age and Chapel, we're providing P120 and P180 parking. So that discourages all-day parking. And initially we had P120 parking, but talking with the rest homes and with the church, they felt that it's just not long enough for an elderly person to go and visit another elderly person. 2 hours is quite constrained. So we've pushed that up to the P180 in response to their feedback. So what are the concepts that we considered? So the preferred design, which is this 3D visualization, it's the safest facility type for a road catering for the volume of traffic that it does. It's the most intuitive for riders, you're riding with traffic, and most intuitive for drivers. It has an even parking distribution, so it's parking on both sides of the road. It doesn't restrict any side road access. It has the best connectivity for riders, and it removes a traffic lane. And removing that traffic lane reduces the speed, so it's improving safety for all users. It does have the highest parking removal though. Now the one-way option, we can only provide that up to the Bishopdale Roundabout. After the roundabout, we need to look at how to connect into the two-way east of Grers Road. And the best way to connect from the roundabout to the two-way east of Grers Road is with a two-way on the north side of Harewood Road. This provides the best transition between the two, and it has the minimum impact on the Grers Road intersection. So we did consider running the one-ways through this section and crossing over at Grers Road, but the additional time to cross the riders was causing a lot of traffic congestion at Grers. We also looked at signals either side of the Grers Road intersection, but again it was causing a lot of delay to Harewood Road traffic. And as a final option we considered for this section, it was one-ways either side of the central median, which had a much higher parking supply for the residents there, but we couldn't get it across the Grers intersection due to capacity constraints for traffic. So this two-way on the north side is the best compromise to link the roundabout to the two-way east of Greers. It does have the contraflow riding, so a slightly lower level of safety for riders that are riding against the traffic. And it does have no parking on the north side of the central median. Now, we've had strong feedback from the residents in this section saying there's no parking outside our properties. And we have looked at options to try and provide that parking, but we can't get through the Greers intersection without causing excessive delay. So what does that look like in plan view? Just to summarise what I've talked about. One ways from Nunwick Boulevard through to the roundabout, and then we needed to consider how to link the roundabout to the two-way here, east of Greers Road. And the best way to achieve that is with the two-way on the north side. Now, what that two-way does is it provides a consistent facility type from the roundabout all the way through to Chapel Street. So continuing with the concepts considered, we had adjacent the central median, which is one of the options we considered for that roundabout to Greers section. It has a minimal impact on on-street parking, so it provides a good amount of parking. And it has a good rider level of service once you're on the facility. But looking at the full length of Harewood Road in that central section, it requires the closure of U-turn pockets, and it requires the restriction of the side roads of Trafford, Laycroft and Cotswold to be left in, left out. So while it's a viable option, it's not preferred because of the restrictions to traffic movements. A two-way cycleway in the central median. Initially, we'd based this on what you see along Linwood Ave. The difference with Linwood Ave is that central median is 30 metres wide, and this is 4.6 metres wide, so it wasn't possible to retain the trees and have a cycleway. So it removes all the trees through this section, and it retains 4 lanes, which has the high speed issue. So it's unsafe for riders. It also closes the U-turn pockets and restricts the side roads to left in, left out. A shared path on either side of the road in the berms. A lot of feedback again from the public on this saying, why don't you just remove the berms and seal it? It retains the 4-lane section still, which has the speed issue, which is a safety concern, and this does not meet MCR design requirements. So you can see the blue car in the left of the screen, the left of the visualisation, and the rider on the footpath. A vehicle coming out of their driveway, they will not be able to see a rider on the path, particularly when there's a high fence. It's difficult enough now with pedestrians and scooter users without adding riders there. So it's a significant risk to people riding. And with the elderly, the conflict between riders and elderly people has a poor outcome. So it's unsafe for the elderly. The road swap, or the main road on the north side of Harewood Road. This has a benefit of providing a low-speed access road next to the Charity Hospital, Copenhagen Bakery, and it would be a 30 km/h road. And adjacent to that would be the two-way cycleway. It would be a pleasant facility to ride on with a reasonably good level of service. It removes not that many car parks, so it's a good balance for car park removal. However, it has quite a high impact on the residents on the north side of Harewood Road. So they're now going to have double the volume of traffic outside their properties, and safety issues associated with the indented parking restricting sight lines exiting the driveways. So a person exiting the driveway with a vehicle parked there would need to nose their vehicle into the live traffic lane. It's also expensive. It's in the order of 2.5 to 3 million more expensive than the consulted design to provide this. A two-way on the north side. And that was considered, this is the option that we have provided from the roundabout through to Greer's Road over that short block. But along the full length of the road, while it offers a good level of service for people riding the full length, it does have a lower level of safety for contraflow riders. And so it requires the side roads to be restricted to left in, left out. So that's Crofton and Cotswold would be left in, left out. The other thing is that it doesn't have any parking on the north side of the central median. And we've already seen from the public between the roundabout and Greer's Road, there's strong pushback about having no parking on their side of the road. So we'd expect there'd be strong opposition from people on the north side of Harewood Road that they no longer had any parking. So that's not favoured due to the turn restrictions and the inequitable parking distribution. Just considering for the Nummuck Boulevard to Greer's Road section, so the full central section, if we compare one way each side versus two way on the north side, the one way each side is the safest for riders and it's the best connected for riders. A two way on the north side is less safe for contraflow riders, and it requires the riders on the other side of the road to cross over a traffic lane or ride on a short section of the footpath. The one-way removes 50% of the parking, and the two-way removes 20%. However, that parking that is retained in the two-way, 100% of it is removed on the north side. So anybody on the north side, if they have to park on the street, park on the south side of the median and need to cross over a traffic lane and a two-way cycleway. It also requires the restriction of Crofton and Cotswold to left and left out. A one-way doesn't have any side road restriction, and it's the most intuitive for all users. So what are the key changes that we have made in the central section? So down by the Trafford Street shops, we've swapped over the bus stop and the P5 parking, and that's working with the shops on the corner here and having that P5 closer to where the business is. Around the Copenhagen block, there's been a number of changes made through this section, but we had 3 meetings with the bakery, discussing what the impacts would be and how they operate at the moment and how we could improve that. We've managed to provide an additional 7 parks within this block, and they're shown as the light blue. The parks over this northern side here, they're by creating a clear zone. So there'd be no parking there during the evening peak period when there's a high traffic volume, but other times of the day they'll be available. And there's been a provision of a pedestrian cut through the island, linking through to Charnwood Crescent. Now at the bakery, there's been a number of changes to their access way, the parking outside the bakery, and that's to help mitigate some of the operational concerns that they currently have. And that's best seen in this 3D pictorial. So the Copenhagen Bakery is the site on the left of screen. We've moved the access way. And by moving the access way to the east, it provides an additional park outside the bakery, but it also mitigates one of their concerns of the off-street car park. The off-street car park is currently quite difficult to get into, and it's very narrow and congested. So this opens up their off-street parks and makes it easier to get into those. They also provided feedback that there's queues building from the accessway of people trying to get into the car park onto Harewood Road at the moment, and it blocks one of the through lanes. So by moving the accessway, it allows vehicles to queue on the accessway and over the adjacent accessway. So 2 vehicles to queue out of the through road, the through stream on Harewood Road. We've indented the parking. People going to the bakery find it difficult to open up their car door into the live traffic lane. So by narrowing the cycleway, it allows the car parking to be moved over and provide a door swing area for people to get in and out of their vehicles. And these 4 car parks would be P10, so short stay, high turnover. And as part of providing that indented parking, we'd lift the cycleway next to it up to footpath level, so it removes the potential trip hazard for people running in to grab their goods. East of the accessway would widen the separator and narrow the cycleway. Narrowing the cycleway encourages riders to go in single file and not overtake each other, and widening the separator creates a larger area for more the elderly people to stand and manoeuvre and hop in and out of their vehicle. And finally, the planter boxes. So we've taken the vegetation that's within the Copenhagen site and put it into planter boxes and moved it into road reserve. And what that allows the bakery to do is provide additional manoeuvring for their off-road car parks. It brings them up to the current minimum standards. So at the moment, people aren't using that car park because it's difficult to get into it and it's difficult to manoeuvre once you're in it. The combination of moving the accessway and moving the planter boxes means that car park is easier to use and more people will use the off-road park. Outside Charity Hospital, through this block, we've met with Charity Hospital and they've provided some excellent feedback, and we've made a number of changes to the design that helps address what their concerns are. And one of them is to lift up the cycleway similar to outside Copenhagen Bakery to remove the trip hazard of the separator. And the other is to make some changes to their driveways and provide an additional pedestrian crossing point through the central median. So again, with the rendering, we've got the Charity Hospital on the left-hand side, indent the parking, and raise up the cycleway to remove the trip hazard. Minor changes to the accessways. The accessways were always going to be open, but we've modified them slightly to allow for the delivery of gas. Down at Bishopdale Park, we've extended a shared path around the corner onto Laycroft Street where the gates into the park are. And this links into the children's play area and provided some bike stands. And then as a general note, the design of the bus stops has changed. So Council and ECAN, we're always working together to improve bus stops and the provision of them. And where we're leading to at the moment is to narrow the cycleways through bus stops to encourage that single lane operation and slow the speed of the rider, but also to create a larger area for mobility impaired people to get on and off the bus. And the review of these design standards, it's ongoing. To the roundabout, a majority of the trees are retained. Potentially no trees will be removed, maybe 3. On Highstead Road, the splitter island's been shortened to cater for the right turn out of Caltex. And there's been a shared path provided on the eastern side of Farrington to provide a crossing over in the splitter island. So there's quite a long section to get through, and
Section, and I forgot to call a 20-minute break too, but I thought we were on a bit of a roll there. You know, it's interesting. I mean, obviously I've been aware of a number of the questions and been to see some of the people, but yeah, it's good. Aaron.
Got some. Some of them go back about 30 slides, but there was the one where you had like the heat map for lanes, and it had like Papanui Road, Northcote Road, Harewood Road, so on and so forth. Who made that up?
Whereabouts?
let's see if we can go back to it.
Yeah, it's quite a way back.
That would have been right at the start of this section.
Yeah. There.
That there, yes.
Go forward. One more.
Oh,
So.
that one there. Yep.
Yeah, on there you've got Papanui Road runs at 70% capacity. Yet at peak time, that's walking speed. That would say it's beyond capacity because the traffic's not flowing. The traffic is congesting and having a negative impact on the environment. So how's that not in the red?
Yeah.
Because most people in Christchurch would tell you that's a shit road to take at peak time.
It is a shocker to drive along, and I try and avoid it.
Put that so much
But
better
you've
than
hit on a
Aaron.
really key point. So this is looking at the road between intersections. And what it's demonstrating is that road by itself, the ability of that road to cater for the flow of traffic.
Right. So
It's
that's
getting-
not based on the real road. That's if there's no
No, that's it.
intersection.
That's a real road. It's getting up towards 70% of your capacity is being used. But what you're seeing in terms of the queues and everyone sitting there and not being able to move is not because of the lane in the middle. It's because of the signals. It's because you get round to Northlands Mall and people crawl around past there to the top end of Cranford Street, and then it starts flowing again. So it's the design of the signals and the ability to get the traffic through the signals that's limiting the movement, not the number of lanes in the middle.
Okay, so there's probably no one in the city that's going to agree with this. And then, as in that graph there, because they'll just look at some of those streets at those peak
Yeah,
times,
but
go, that's congestion.
What you think
is at
you're
the
looking
red.
at sounds like it's different from what it's set to describe. So, yeah, because it's based on sections of road.
Not reality. I know. I can see that.
No. Maybe.
Well, at 5.
Do we want numbers?
It's not. Well.
I mean, I'm trying.
Okay, then.
I'm trying to give Aaron what he's asking for. This is not what he's asking for.
So yeah. I'll just. I'll spread misinformation.
No, it's demonstrating.
But the public will believe it because they drive the road.
Sorry, Aaron. I'm trying to help. So what you're asking for
It's
is
common practice at this
a
table.
demonstration of the capacity of the roads and the impact of the impact of numbers on roads at particular times. Yeah. But
Because
is that what you want?
Well, no, because he gave us the street where they've done the lane reduction. So Key Street in Auckland. So the 1.8 kilometre stretch that's reduced from 2 lanes to 1 had a travel time of 5 to 6 minutes, is now 13. That's a terrible impact on the environment because cars are there twice as long with their engines going.
On Key Street.
Key Street, yep. 5 to 6 minutes was the original travel time for 1.8 kilometres. It's now 13. That's not a good outcome.
I think the comment you made earlier about Auckland reducing the capacity of some roads to force people to use different modes of transport could apply to that. What we have done for this route here is based on modelling, and that is modelling that is used for any large roading changes within the city or developments within the city. It is evaluated what the impact of removing a traffic lane would be.
Right. And then you gave us those numbers. So it was between 20 and 40 seconds would be the increased travel time on Harewood Road, which doesn't sound like much, but 18,000 vehicles, that's 9,000 minutes a day of burning carbon that we are going to add to the system by doing this.
And
If we
councillor,
switch-
and councillor, and getting people and getting 3 or 4 or 5 of those people that choose to take a trip each day to choose to take their bike will put even less carbon into the thing. So there's a balancing act. The team are trying to show you the balancing act across what they're doing and the decisions that they've made. The feedback we had from the community was this is going from 2 lanes to 1 lane is going to cause congestion. What we're saying is there's enough room to put the traffic on the road in 1 lane, but there's two functions in a road. There's the space in the lane, and then there's how the signals work. So we've got to balance that together. This is one part of that story, and then the second part is the next slide, which talks about how long it takes to get through there.
But
it's also a safety issue, because we know that this road is travelling on average 5 kilometres an hour above the speed limit.
And the accident rate on those sections is only some intersections.
And if you have an accident going at 60 k's an hour, you are more likely to have a fatal or a serious accident, and the person that you hit is more likely to be fatally or seriously hit than if you do that at 50 or even below 50. So this is balancing all of the needs across all of this, taking into account what we're trying to achieve for climate change. I get that, but it's not just about having traffic moving. If we make bigger, faster roads, we get more traffic. We've talked about that before.
That's not true.
We throttle roads down, and if we throttle roads, we probably have to philosophically agree to disagree on that one. If we throttle roads down, they do go slower. They are safer to people move. They move slower, so they take some longer to do their journey, but they move more consistently. They are going slower. Those roads are easier to get across from a pedestrian perspective. They are easier you get more connectivity across it. There's all of those sort of things. So it's a balancing act going through a community.
Another consideration in terms of the emissions from vehicles and the additional travel time is that our vehicle fleet's changing. It is currently 10 to 12 years old, but there is a big incentive for people to get into more environmentally friendly vehicles, more electric vehicles, which have a lower impact when they're being used, or hybrid vehicles. In terms of the overall economic evaluation, the change in the additional delay to the vehicles is outweighed by the benefits of having more people in active transport.
Well, it'd be good to see that evidence, because 9,000 extra minutes would not suggest that. So it'd be like it's purely a numbers game. It is. So that's what we need to see, and it's the same with the safety improvements. When there's accidents on key roads, because there's others, and safety's been ignored on this road at one key intersection, which thousands of people from the area have asked for an upgrade for decades and have been ignored based on safety.
Are we?
The whole thing's
look, I'm trying to be helpful in terms of this. It's a briefing. It's as much to assist members of the panel as it is to assist the public in engaging in the hearings that we are going to conduct probably in the new year now, is it? So,
Yes, it is.
and there's a substantial period of community engagement so that the public can see how their submissions have been listened to and what changes have been made to the design as a result. I know people who will be very happy to hear about the trees in the roundabout. I don't feel so fussed about the gums myself, but others do. And so that will come as good news. I actually love the flow of that new intersection, because I'm not used to living there now, and it certainly wasn't like that when I was a kid. But it's the most scary roundabout that I ever have to confront, because it's counterintuitive. You've got to switch from one lane to another, or else you end up in the wrong lane to be where you want to be, and it's horrible. I do avoid it. But and with lights, a lighting system that is genuinely used by people who are turning up to use it rather than these ghost bikes that you see in town sometimes. You know, I think that would go down quite well. So we've got to hear people's submissions after they've got the feedback. So I think we don't need to debate the issues right now. We're just going through listening to all of the different changes that are being proposed. Jason, you've got your hand up.
Thank you. Maybe a comment and then a couple of questions around the Copenhagen stuff. So I kind of see where Aaron's coming from, the fact that, you know, the perception that residents may have just around what Papanui Road is like in comparison to that particular graph, and then how that compares to the changes on Harewood. It may just be that perception, and maybe that's not the best graphic to potentially roll out if everyone's going to disagree with it, regardless of the accuracy.
Yeah.
And then the other 2 points were, and I like the improvements around Copenhagen definitely seem like good compared to the initial design. But I was just wondering, you did say that you just had quite a few conversations with them around, you know, potential other options. Have they seen, or have they given you any feedback on this, what you've put forward to us at this point? Have they seen this yet and given you any comms?
Yes, they have. So we've presented some other options to the bakery, and their preference initially is to not have a cycleway, and then if there is a cycleway, it's the one that has the most parking. So it removes the less on-street parking for them, and that's also recognising what the impacts their business has on the neighbouring properties. But they have also been very complimentary of the changes that we've made and the process that we're going through with them in the meetings, and improving the operation of their current car park layout, and hearing what their concerns are and responding to those, and going back and meeting with them and saying, here's what we've heard, here's what we've changed, how does that work for you now?
They also weren't in favour of signalising the intersection either, so we just need to put that in context as well. So there's been multiple issues. It's not just about the cycleway, it's also about the signalisation of the intersection from their perspective.
Okay, great, thank you. And then the second follow-up with those ones is how many, well, so it's two-part. First one was, if you had the cycleway on the northern section of that particular part of the road, how much overall parking would be lost compared to the one lane on each side with your improvements? And then the supplementary to that was how many parks would be lost with your current design compared to if it was on the north side. That may be easier to break up into a couple of questions and answer one at a time, actually, but see how you get on.
Yeah, so through the central section, the amended scheme removes 48% of the parks, so it removes 135 parks. A two-way on the north side would remove 20% of the park, so it'd remove 54 parks. But the numbers in themselves, while there are less parks removed from a two-way, the parking surveys are showing that there's a very low parking demand on Harewood Road, apart from the hot spots around the likes of Copenhagen Bakery. And the distribution of that parking, with the two-way having no parking on the north side of the median, I think would get quite a public pushback on that, given what we've observed between Grera's Road and the roundabout.
Okay. And then just the second part of that was, so how with your amended design, how many parks have been lost from Copenhagen, outside of Copenhagen, as compared to what just the current state of affairs are right now?
So outside Copenhagen at the moment, there are, well, in the Trafford to Breens block, so Copenhagen about 100 metres either side, there are 28 existing spaces, and with the revised design there are 17 spaces, so it removes 11 on the south side of the road.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, Mike.
How many of those Ollie,
Oh.
sorry, how many of those are gone because of the cycleway and how many are gone because of the intersection?
So out of that 11 removed, 5 of them are removed for the intersection. So 6 removed for the cycleway.
Thanks.
Okay, so it's quite a good improvement. Thank you.
Mike.
Thank you. A couple of questions. So currently down that stretch by Copenhagen, how many of those car parks are like got time restrictions on them for the bakeries?
Currently none.
Okay. How many did we propose to do around?
So we've got the 4 P10s immediately outside,
Yep.
and there are some P60s just further down from that and across the road on the other side.
So we've increased the actual time restricted ones because I think there's 13 when we consulted from memory.
Yeah, that's right. So we have the additional parking spaces that we've added in. Most of them fall within the P10 and the P60 restrictions.
Okay, so we've gone from 13 to
1, 2, 3, 6 on the northern side within the time restriction, and on the southern side we've got 5, 9, 12 on the southern side.
Thank you. Are we looking in for the design to install cycle stands for the bakery?
Yes, they're included.
Thank you.
Yeah, we have, working with the bakery, they've asked us to, on their behalf, have a look to see if we can provide a charging station for e-bikes,
Excellent.
which we're investigating.
Thank you. And how many changes from what we went out and consulted on? How many changes have been made to the for the whole design actually?
Around 65 sort of changes of note, and then quite a number of sort of smaller tweaks that may not be apparent to people, but yeah, around 65 changes.
Thank you.
At the information sessions, there will be drawings that will highlight each of the sheets and what the changes have been made out of those 65 changes on each sheet.
Okay, thank you.
Can we go to the charity hospital slide? So I think I have it in my head, the issue around the very large delivery truck for the gas bottles. And the issue was the use of the extra lane to provide for that swing into. I think they literally had to get one of their people out of the truck to stop the traffic. So how's that working now?
Yeah, there's a few options for it, but it can still work in a similar fashion that the truck pulls over, comes up the road and actually pulls in to the right, then reverses back into the access way. It may have a chance to pull in nose first as well, but it's effectively going to work reasonably similarly to how it did previously. We're also widening out the driveway going into the hospital,
Right.
And they may choose to widen their gates to match that, which will give the truck more options for turning in nose first as well.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. But yeah, it'd be worse to back out though, wouldn't it? There's no.
There
route round.
is. It's sort of marginal if it would get round. I think it would have a chance of getting round internally,
Right.
but it will be tight.
Right. Okay.
It's a very, very large truck.
But you're continuing to work with them
Yeah.
on that.
Yep.
But this option allows them to do what they have been doing up until now, even with one lane.
Yep. Correct.
Yeah. Okay.
And the feedback from the charity hospital CEO was that they are very happy with the changes that have been made
Right.
and the ongoing discussions that we'll have around that.
Okay. Any more on the central section? Okay. Right. Okay. So we move on to.
So,
Sorry. Well, it's 4:48. We're almost done. Yeah. And literally, we've got we've
slides.
We've got a brief summary, and we've got the process from here. That's it.
Okay, look. But based on the valuable local knowledge we've received through consultation about how people use Harewood Road, their concerns, And considering this alongside our technical assessment, we've developed a preferred option for the route as previously described and as consulted. At the western end, it's a shared path on the south side of Harewood Road. It widens out the existing path. It's a cost-effective solution that doesn't affect the existing carriageway. Past between Kilmuir Lane and Nummuck Boulevard, it's a two-way on the south side. It removes the minimum amount of parking through that section. Through the central section, it's a one-way cycleway on either side. It slows the vehicles down. It's safest for the riders. It's the most intuitive for all users. And it has an equitable distribution of parking. And it has no side road restrictions. Continuing from the roundabout through to Matson's Ave is a two-way on the north side. It provides parking on the south side of Greer's Road, the south side of Harewood Road east of Greer's, and it has the least impact on the operation of the Greer's Road intersection. And then there's the one-way section from Matson's Ave through to the Northern Line, which at the moment is one ways either side, and we'll go away and review that as discussed. So I'll hand you over to Kelly now, who's the PM.
To quickly outline.
Put your speaker on.
Oh, sorry.
Right.
Sorry. I just want to outline just the process moving forward from now for Wheels to Wings. So from next week, on Wednesday, Thursday and Friday, we're holding community open days in Bishopdale Mall at the old ARA campus. And this will be an opportunity for the public to see all the designs that have been considered and the changes that have been made to the preferred design after consultation. There will also be a long plan of the preferred design so that people will be able to see the detail of what is being proposed at specific locations. That's about a 7-metre long plan. We've asked people to book into the open days. There's a maximum of 20 people coming to each 50-minute session, and that's so that we can maintain social distancing. So far, about 110 people have booked, and everyone that we've spoken to so far to book are still really engaged in the project and in the process. We'll be visiting the surrounding businesses when we go out there to encourage them to attend the open days if they haven't already booked. And we'll be doing more social media updates next week to remind people to come along if they haven't already booked for the sessions. On next Tuesday from...
If by chance there was more demand to attend than we can cater for under the existing COVID rules, would you be willing to do more public information sessions?
We have booked... the following Monday is available if there is more demand than we can provide for next Wednesday, Thursday and Friday.
Great.
So on Tuesday night from 4 to 6 p.m, there's a session for elected members to come along and view all the open day material before the public, and also just to have an opportunity to speak with the team and ask any more questions. You'll also be able to have a look at the detailed plans as well. So it'll be really great to see as many of you there as possible. Yep. From next Wednesday, we'll also be carrying out further engagement with the community for 3 weeks until the 17th of November. And we're going to be asking for people's comments on the design changes that we've made following consultation, the comments on the design options that they'll now be able to see, and just any other comments that they have as well. On Thursday, the 2nd of December, we are having a workshop with the board members from Papanui Innes and Whenelton Waimarie Harewood, who are not councillors and not on the hearings panel. Mm-hmm. And this will be the same presentation as today, but it will also include the analysis of the further engagement that will be starting next week. And the purpose of that workshop is to inform the board's submission on the hearings panel. Right. And then early next year, the hearing dates are yet to be confirmed, The hearings team are working on that at the moment, and that will inform a recommendation to the Urban Development and Transport Committee for a decision. And that's it. That's the end of the presentation. So there's still time if there's any more questions that anyone would like to answer.
Has anyone got any questions? Aaron?
So there was strong feedback from a number of people around putting the cycleway under the trees in the berm, because you've got basically 2 metres either side of the tree trunks. Why can we not have it on there? Why is that ruled out? But not have the lane reduction, just use like a swimming pool fence or something.
So this is on either side of the road by removing the berm and sealing it? Is that the...
Well, you'd seal it with a permeable surface. You wouldn't put a solid surface. The trees would die. But
Or in the central...
the median.
Central median.
Sorry,
the
central
median.
Oh, the central median, right. Yeah, so look, there's not sufficient width to do that. The central median at the moment is 4.6 metres wide, and a two-way cycleway is 3 metres wide. So it leaves 1.6, which is, by the time you take into account a tree trunk and then clearance to your traffic lanes, there's not enough space. So we looked at it from the kind of the Linwood Ave perspective. It's 30 metres wide. There's plenty of room to do it. So to put anything in the central median, you'd need to remove the traffic lanes either side, which then becomes the option 2 was that.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So there's just not physically enough
So
space.
you can't have a 2 metre wide lane in one direction and a 2 metre wide in the other direction, or 1.9 or something. That doesn't work.
Not in a 4.6 median, no.
I think the team showed it, but you had to take the trees out.
But
So you can't get a 2 metre lane down either side
well, it's about a 1.9
and
or
retain the
1.8.
trees.
Or you...
And retain
well,
the trees is what we were saying.
I'm reluctant to do this, but let's go back to that picture, because I mean it was the option that I wanted to see.
Well, a number
in
of the
the
public
early days,
suggested
There just isn't enough.
But the report told me that we couldn't do what I wanted to do, which was to put it like Linwood Ave. So go back to the other one. Go one back from there. So that's taking out a lane and putting a cycleway either side.
So not doing that. Either side of the tree trunks, you got about 1.8 to, depending on the tree,
No,
to
because
2
you've got
metres.
roots in your trees. That's the other option, as you take the trees out.
Well, no, there's grass there now, and then you
But what we're
use
saying,
permeable
Councillor, is
concrete.
you can't fit
Yeah.
it. You can't fit it in.
Yes,
There
I-
isn't
It's not wide
space to
enough.
fit it in. It's not wide enough.
So how wide does the cycle lane need to be that's going in one direction? What's our skinniest lane we've got?
1.8.
A 4.8 single direction lane.
1.8.
Oh, 1.8. Okay, so there's pretty much 1.8. If you make the curb, the concrete side of it even 200 mil wider for putting the fence on, because you've got to definitely
Councillor,
have to.
please.
No, okay,
Please.
just
The
putting
team
forward.
have really looked at it, and they've looked at it seriously, and they have taken it seriously. They've done everything they can to see if they can
Okay.
fit it in. They can't fit it in with the trees.
Yeah, the only way is can you go back one? Because it is one that I wanted, but I
Only way is to widen
when
the
I
median.
read the paper, this was the only option in the centre, and I thought that the limitations.
Well, we went down with the tape measure and didn't find any spots that weren't 1.8 wide on either side of tree trunks. So, just saying, but if it can't be done, it can't be done. And then the other thing a lot of public said was because they didn't want the lane reduction, they'd prefer.
I wish you'd done this when we'd gone through this section. Yeah.
Was the shared path. But you're saying that can't be done because it's an MCR.
It can't be done because it's not to standard. It's just it wouldn't be to standard.
Well, to an MCR
It's
standard.
also
But
the mix.
Sorry.
It's also the mixing of, we also talked about this
How
road
dangerous it
and
would
the
be.
unusual characteristics of this road, with the number of elderly along it, the number of people that are walking. It's that mixing of different groups. So it's also about the demographic down the road and how we don't think it's the right thing to propose.
Right.
But I mean, yeah. I mean, I am now regretting doing this because maybe I should have turned our attention to it as a panel on the way through, but I thought that the downsides had really ruled it out. But
Well, they hadn't in the public size, but if it's in the report size, then
yeah, but we'll
must be
hear
what it is.
submissions. We'll
Yeah,
hear what
that's
people
right.
have to say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, I was just
Sorry,
bringing it up
Jay-
now because it probably will come up because those
So no,
were the
I just
main
wish
bits
you'd
we had.
raised it when we got to the slides on the central bit. So, Jason.
Thank you. So just a quick question from me. So on the, sorry, I've just got a 3-year-old that's just kind of just busted in. On the process towards the end of it, when we've got, say, like the recommended designs, would it just be the
Do you
one
wanna go
design
back to
again
the-
we're recommending, or would we
Go
be
back to
able
the
to show?
timing.
Would we be able to show, say, like, because the way I see it is that a lot of residents, they might not be able to see the downsides of that 2-lane on the north side, even though it has more parks reduced from that side, even though the overall reduction in parks is the lowest.
So
But that and compared to the preferred option you had type of thing would provide quite a lot of justification, because if they can't see it, then they're like, oh, what about that north side? So I was just wondering, like, how that might look at that point.
So we're going to go through all of this information with the public and the public open days as well. And all of this information will be presented in the hearings report as well, as in options and positives and negatives as to why. But staff do need to give the hearings panel a preferred option.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
after we've
And then you make that call after that.
Yeah, after we've heard the submissions, we may choose to comment on options that we're not recommending as well. And that might also be in the report back. So when it comes to council, it'll be plain what we considered and plain why we chose the option that we chose and why we perhaps didn't choose some of the others.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Good. All right. So I think that brings us to an end, and it is 5 o'clock. So I'm absolutely thrilled with that. I thank you so much, everyone, Lynette, the team. You've just gone to so much trouble, and I know that you've spent a lot of time out there talking to people, listening to people, and then going away and working through the myriad of options that you've presented to us today. So I just want to say it's been highly valued by myself as chair, but also members of the hearings panel, and I think it's going to stand us in very good stead as we go into the hearings in the new year. So good luck with the community engagement, and we look forward to receiving your report on that. So thank you very, very much for your time, and we can end the meeting there. Thank you.
Thank you.